So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our June 14th Town Council meeting. I know, Madam Clerk, you have to start our meeting.
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The annual notice was emailed to the Star Ledger and filed in the Township Clerk's office on November 24th, 2021, and published in the West Orange Chronicle on December 2nd, 2021. Councilwoman Castellino?
Present.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Present.
Councilman Rutherford?
Here.
Councilwoman Williams?
Present.
Council President McCartney?
Present.
Mayor Parisi?
Thank you, Mayor and Chief, for being here. I usually am anxious to start the meeting, and I always jumpstart before the clerk welcomes everyone in and starts the meeting. And tonight in particular, because I did ask the chief, we have 4 new officers in West Orange. I don't want to call them kids, but just very young men, and we wanted to welcome them. I do follow the police Facebook page, and I saw that there was a lovely swearing-in ceremony at Sacred Heart Cathedral, and I just thought we need to bring it home and make it local, and I've invited them here. So if the mayor and the chief we'd like to have a little local swearing-in ceremony here at Town Council Chambers for Michael Giovini, Corey Gray, James Tiernan, and Joe Tutela.
Does he want the microphone?
They need to go back.
Mayor, you want the handbook? I don't know. It's got the look.
For sure.
Sir Joseph Tutela. Mom's going to hold the Bible. All right. Please put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Ready?
I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all of the duties of the office of police officer according to the best of my abilities. So help me God. Congratulations.
Officer James Tiernan. Mom and Dad, Mr. and Mrs. Tiernan.
Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all of the duties of the office of police officer according to the best of my abilities. So help me God. Congratulations.
Officer Michael Giovine. Parents will hold the Bible. Mayor, if you'll do the honors.
Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all of the duties of the office of police officer according to the best of my abilities. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you, gentlemen. I know you have to go back to work, I'm sorry to say. Thank you, families, for being here. I'm so glad we were able to do this. And on behalf of my council colleagues, we wish you Godspeed. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. So next on our conference agenda, we do have a proclamation for Jaden Mendes. This proclamation is for the Tourette Syndrome, and I know Jaden does want to say a few words before we present the proclamation to him.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Jaden Mendes, and I would like to speak briefly about Tourette Syndrome. I first came to speak about TS at the town council meeting when I was 9 years old, and then once again when I was 12. Over the years, my experience with living with TS has changed my life significantly. But first, I would like to share a few brief facts about Tourette Syndrome. Approximately 1 in 100 children have a form of Tourette Syndrome or tic disorder. TS is usually diagnosed in children between ages of 5 and 10. Boys are 3 times more likely to have TS than girls. TS causes people to have tics, sudden twitches or movements and sounds that people cannot stop their tics. Every person with TS is different. No two people have the same tics. Having tics is like the feeling you get when you have an itch. Once you scratch it, it feels like relief. Tics are the relief, releasing the tension. Having TS while being a student can be exhausting. Children will sometimes try to suppress their tics, which makes it hard to focus on what the teacher is teaching, and it's physically exhausting as well. TS is chronic and there's no cure. I feel fortunate enough to have outgrown of many of my obvious tics I used to have, such as yelling, shuffling my feet, and moving my neck. Now I have subtle tics, such as taking an extra breath before I speak, or small facial movements. Most people don't even notice them anymore, but I still feel them. I have used sports and started being physically active as a way to help cope with my TS. I will be a senior at West Orange High School in the next year, and I'm grateful for my family, coaches, and teachers who have supported me along the way. I'm here because educating people about Tourette syndrome is important. Children with TS are at risk of being bullied and have mental health issues. As a community, we need to be educated to help support those with TS, so that they know they are not defined by their diagnosis, but that they are great in spite of it. Thank you.
I was going to ask him how old he is, but a senior at the high school, and said that he has been here numerous times. And the proclamation, so much of what Jaden just said personalized this proclamation that we have before us. And it does say that Tourette syndrome is an often misunderstood inherited neurological disorder that is characterized by involuntary physical and vocal tics, and nearly 90% of the times is accompanied by other health disorders, such as ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and anxiety. He mentioned about the percentage of people that are afflicted with this, and that there is no cure. That is in this proclamation, and that there is an urgent need for professional education in both the medical and educational field to assist children, adults, and families living with TS, and general awareness to broaden the public's knowledge of this stigma, or not a stigma. So the proclamation is saying that the New Jersey Center for Tourette Syndrome and Associated Disorders is celebrating 17 years of excellence in education, advocacy, and research. And I think we have testament here that it is working. And we're pleased. Jaden reached out to ask about this proclamation. And it ends, the last paragraph on the proclamation ends, that we will recognize this day as Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day in West Orange as a special day to promote understanding, compassion, acceptance for all of our fellow citizens who deserve and need our support to break the stigma that surrounds Tourette Syndrome. And it's signed by Mayor Precinct. So thank you very much. So that still leaves us a few minutes to do council liaison announcements. Councilwoman Castellino, I think we'll go in alphabetical order this time. Next time we'll do reverse. Okay.
And I just want to thank our guests
Thank
today.
you.
what a pleasure too to see our students, residents from West Orange grow up to now come and protect us. Such an honor this evening, and thank you so much for Jason being so brave and with his awareness. We appreciate that. A lot of excitement this past month. Last week we had our Downtown Alliance had our street fair, which we had not had in 2 years. And what a great job by Ms. Brill and her team. And we had about 6,000 visitors, we estimated, to visit Main Street last week, with 3,100 of them visiting the museum. So it was such a great success, such a great day. We thank all. Ms. Brill, again, I can't commend you and your team, the hard work. John McElroy for the great car show that was added to the street fair. Many residents and people travel from all over. We're seeing the results of all of our efforts come to fruition with everything that we're trying to do with our advertisements, with working with our consultants, and working with our great team that we have here with Mr. Fagan, the Downtown Alliance members, and the Public Relations Commission really pushing. But I got to thank Public Works. It was a great day for them. They really worked hard for us, our police and fire departments, and we can't have all these great festive events without such great staff and such great support. So we were really hopeful for that. And with that, I know Mr. Fagan, I'm not going to take too much time, but he'll be talking about our Downtown Alliance Downtown Thursdays. We have them coming this summer. We will have 4 of them, which I believe that's in your presentation, Mr. Fagan?
Actually, I'm going to be talking about the street fair, but I can mention that.
Okay, great. So we'll get some more details and whatnot. And I just have to state too, and share to my colleagues, I know you probably knew about it, but Ms. Brill, for all her efforts, was recognized by her peers at Downtown New Jersey this past month for the Excellence Award. And again, she doesn't like to be recognized because she just does what she does, but it has to be noted because all these efforts don't come easily. It's multiple hours that you can imagine. I was more intimately involved this time around with the street fair planning, and I could tell you it's a monumental task, but it paid off with over 125 vendors. And like I said, about 6,000 visitors that day. It was just remarkable. And it's great to see people out and about coming out of the pandemic. So the attendance just showed that. The Public Relations Commission has also been busy with pushing out our Downtown West Orange mobile app. And Mr. Fagan, I'm not going to steal his thunder. I believe he has a flyer on that. But we have so far, it just went out last week, over 500 people signed up. I hope my colleagues are all signed up, but we pushed that out at the street fair. And again, we're making improvements. It's a work in progress on it, but we're getting a lot of great feedback. The Public Relations Commission was out in full force at the street fair, helping folks load up the app and getting feedback on improvements for it. So, we look forward to a great summer, working all these great initiatives to bring more recognition to our township, and mostly for our West Orange business owners. They've had a long haul with the pandemic, and just coming out of that and trying to help them with all these resources that we've been able to supply them with. I know they're very appreciative of, and again, every little bit adds up. We look forward to the Recreation Department celebrating July 4th. This year there will be food trucks that day. All the fun starting at West Orange High School at 1:00 p.m. with food trucks, a kids zone, DJ, and other activities, and of course our fireworks celebration at 9:15. So we hope all could come out. And again, all these events that we're having in the township, you could download our app and they'll all pop up as we load them up. And again, Mr. Fagan will have a quick presentation on that. I also want to thank our fire department, myself, Councilwoman Williams, and Mr. Fagan was present at Flag Day today, where they retire the flag in a very respectful service. And our VFWs, post for being out there, Kim and Amelia especially, for a beautiful presentation, and just to see our firefighters. We really appreciate that, the respect for our flag, and just to see that tradition carry out here in the township makes you very proud. In regards to our Board of Education liaison, I want to thank Mr. Laporte and our grant writer. The Safe Routes to School, the school between the school district and the township received a $920,000 grant for blinking light crosswalks at Gregory, Hazel Elementary, Kelly, and Redwood Elementary schools, as well as Roosevelt Middle School. So that implementation will bring safety to those surrounding schools, and I thank Mr. Laporte and his team for their effort. It's, again, these grants are tedious and time-consuming, and we appreciate all the support that goes into them to help assist our township. And a big congratulations to Principal Hayden Moore. He was the honoree this year West Orange Scholarship Fund last week, and congratulations to that committee. Every student, 142 students from West Orange High School applied and received, every one of the applicants received some kind of award totaling altogether $141,000. So again, all these efforts that go out to so many volunteers in our community, just seeing the rewards to our students is tremendous. And we want to congratulate this year's graduates. The class of 2022 will be celebrating their graduation next Thursday, June 23rd at West Orange High School. So congratulations to our students and our parents and our school district on that. With that, I could have a few more announcements, but I know Mr. Fagan has them, and I'll pass on to Councilman Rutherford.
Actually, Councilwoman
Oh,
Matute Brown.
sorry, Ronaldo.
That's okay. We're getting used to being back here. I was sharing with Karen earlier with our municipal clerk that I set up to do Zoom and then had to fly down here because I forgot completely. But thank you. Just want to just remind everyone to please check out Pleasant Valley Productions website or our township website for the information. Thank you so much. For the information of their events. They've already kicked off, but Pleasant Valley Productions is presenting the Cabaret of Pride, very exciting, Saturday, June 18th. The gates open at 7 p.m. and the show begins at 8. It is only a $5 admission, and I say only and stress only because this is strictly all volunteer, and it's really difficult and costly to put on these productions, and then to have people from our community to volunteer to not just set up chairs, but also clean restrooms to make sure that they're comfortable for the patrons. So please do be sure to support. Part of the proceeds will benefit the RAIN Foundation, so please do check their website and make plans to join beautiful OzPac at the Cabaret of Pride. Also wanted to just mention, because I saw it on our website, needed poll workers, please contact Madam Clerk at 973-325-4155. We want to make sure that, you know, our ability to vote is done so seamlessly. So the more people available, the better things will work for all of us. Juneteenth flag raising is June 16th at 5 p.m. I hope to see you all there. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Rutherford.
Thank you, Council President. This month, I think this is the first time since I've been on the council that 3 of the 4 commissions that I'm on, or committees that I'm on, did not meet: open space, pedestrian safety, and we never report on the insurance, but that didn't meet either. A joint meeting is next week, so I'll leave my comments at that.
Thank you. And we will schedule the joint meeting presentation. I have to schedule the date for that.
Thank you.
Good. Councilwoman Williams?
All right. Good evening, West Orange. Want to start out by just acknowledging our West Orange Pride flag raising and march from Washington Middle School or Elementary School, I apologize, all the way to Town Hall on Sunday the 5th. That was coordinated by our LGBTQ liaison from the West Orange Police Department, as well as the Human Relations Commission. That was a tremendous celebration. Food trucks, DJ, our own West Orange police officer DJ'd that event, and it was a fun time had by all. So kudos to West Orange for celebrating Pride. We had also the first Pride flag raising at West Orange High School. So salute to our high school students for just continuing to showcase their diversity. And I'd also like to add that they will be doing their first Juneteenth flag raising at the high school on Friday at 3 p.m. So very excited that the high school is taking up our community initiatives and showing not only their pride, but their diversity as well. Also like to thank our Public Works Department for all of their support, continued overtime support and work for what they do to support all of our events in West Orange. So for Juneteenth in West Orange, very, very excited to share with everyone the tremendous and immense planning that has come into our West Orange Juneteenth celebration. We're starting on Thursday at 5 p.m. right here at Town Hall with our Juneteenth flag raising, hosted by the Human Relations Commission and co-sponsored by the NAACP. We'll have our Lieutenant Governor, Sheila Oliver, who will be present and bringing us remarks. That will be followed by an event at the library with the Nubian Quilters Guild. They're featuring Threads of Freedom is what they will be displaying. That's right here, 7 o'clock following the flag raising. Then we go on to Friday. Friday is our inaugural Juneteenth, our diverse developers golf outing. Happy to report that that event is completely and totally sold out. So we're really excited about that. That'll be followed by a Women of Triumph leadership tea that I am hosting for Black leaders in our area. And that is going to be hosted with 50 invite-only guests here also at Rock Spring. Following that, we have events that are opening up to the public at Rock Spring. We're having fireworks. We're having a paint and sing experience. We have bouncy houses. We have face painting. We have a tremendous amount of activities, including and followed by food trucks, vendors, and then of course the illumination fireworks display, which will commence around 9 or dusk. And then we have a VIP event soiree following in that evening as well. All these events are taking place at Rock Spring Golf Club. On Saturday, at the West Orange Arts Council, we have a display called Images Triumphant. That will be showcased from 12 to 4. That's with the West Orange Arts Council. And then followed by Luna Stage, which is hosting and premiering the film, The Killing of Willie Chamberlain, and it'll be followed by a panel discussion with Mr. Fasan, as well as one of the executive producers from the film. So we have a tremendous amount of activities. There's something for everyone. Sunday, we took a break. That's Father's Day, so we encourage you to spend time with your father. We do know that that's one of those holidays that doesn't get as much attention, but we do encourage you to celebrate your father and celebrate Juneteenth. And then on Monday, we complete the weekend of events, just encouraging everyone to shop local and support your Black-owned businesses. So that completes our entire economic empowerment and action Juneteenth celebration. It's a mouthful, a couple of days, and we look forward to everyone coming out to support. There's more information. There's a dedicated website. All of this information is on the municipal website, westorange.org, but there is a dedicated website, which is www.junetee.com if you have any questions or you have any additional information. The only committee that met for me since our last council meeting was the Historic Preservation Commission, and we have something on the agenda, so I'll wait until we get to that point. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you very much. And that was months of planning. Thank you, Councilwoman Williams. It just there has been a collaboration of so many groups involved in the Juneteenth planning, and it just sounds like an excellent cultural and educational program. No, weekend. Not even program.
Weekend. I just also, before I leave, and Councilman Rutherford, he actually cooked. So I do want to shout out the West Orange African Heritage Organization and their Men Who Cook Scholarship event. Very well attended. 31 men from the community came and cooked, brought their A game, and it was very well attended at the high school. I got there at the very end, but it was very well attended and a successful event. So kudos to the West Orange African Heritage Organization and their president, Althea Tweeten. Thank you.
Oh, great, thank you. That is a weekend worth of stuff. So day in the life, second Tuesdays of every month are busy for me. They start with an 8 o'clock Board of Directors meeting with the Chamber, and we had a debriefing that we had our first in-person networking event on June 2nd, and we recognized and honored the mayor for the work that he did during COVID and the outstanding work that the township, though so many people are on lockdown, the town continued to operate for the past 2 years. So we're slowly emerging from that. So we welcome everyone that came out tonight for our in-person council meeting as well. Following the chamber meeting, we had the Rena Board of Directors also met. A lot going on over at the Rena House. For the seniors there, we're waiting for quotes on new patio furniture, community room furniture, and a new generator was just installed, and that should be operational in just a few weeks, so the residents will be thrilled about that. Councilwoman Castellino mentioned the street fair. The West Orange Environmental Commission did have a table at the street fair. We recruited dozens of interested residents there to participate because we have a couple of events, programs coming up based on, based on grants coming up. I do have a check from New Jersey American Water that I do need to give to Mr. Gross. That was in my council package, and it is the grant check. Usually they bring us a big check to make a presentation out of it. I guess they didn't know we were still we started in person. So that's one project about the West Branch of the Rawway River. Make sure I leave this with you. And the other one was from Sustainable Jersey. So we are looking for a lot of community support to put those programs in place. I'm going to just a little bit on what Councilwoman Williams said about the West Orange Arts Council. The installation is actually up. The reception will be on Saturday, June 18th. So, and Luna Stage right next door with the film viewing. We're very pleased to be able to get the exhibit and the film coordinated. And I just ask you to visit woarts.org to see the timing of all of these different events. Thank you. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you. Press that down, please. So, Madam Clerk, you can open our meeting.
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The annual notice was emailed to the Star Ledger and filed in the Township Clerk's office on November 24, 2021, and published in the West Orange Chronicle on December 2nd, 2021. Councilwoman Castellino?
Present.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Present.
Councilman Rutherford?
Here.
Councilwoman Williams?
Present.
Council President McCartney?
Present.
Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The council is now in their public meeting.
Council President?
Yes, please. I was going to say, this is a little experiment this evening. We are in person, but we do have, if that's what you were going to talk about? Okay. Since you were so intimately involved with setting this up, we were trying to Zoom as well as be in person. Here we go. You want to talk about this, John?
Yes, Council President, thank you very much. I just wanted to let the council know and let the public know that we have worked very hard to try to overcome some significant technical obstacles in order to put together for this evening a simultaneous live meeting recording and Zoom streaming, as well as the ability to accept public input and questions from the public from Zoom who are not here. So just to describe the experience for you, anyone at home will be able to see all the activities that are being recorded by our videographer tonight. So there'll be a single version of tonight's meeting that whether you're here or you watch it on TV later on or you watch it on live stream Zoom, it'll be the same identical experience. Additionally, in addition to public being able to get up and speak at the meeting here tonight, anyone who is watching via Zoom, we're going to next give the opportunity to have their time either making comments or asking questions of the council. So it is I won't say experimental, but I will tell you that it's technical and there are some obstacles, and we hope that we believe we've overcome most of them. We hope that we've overcome all of them. We'll find out later on tonight. We do invite the public to comment, send us comments on our successes and failure with this so that we can gauge what potential changes we might need to do for moving forward. So we hope your public and your patience and acceptance and this experiment tonight. So, if Council President, if I may, we can now invite members who are viewing over Zoom to raise their virtual hands and be identified. You will, council, people in the audience here will only hear them. You will not see them unless you're watching on the Zoom itself. I will say that we have not tested that, so we're not sure. Certainly, if you are watching Zoom, I would recommend that you keep it on mute because our biggest issues have been in feedback areas. So having said that, I'll invite our moderator to let people in and start public comment.
Yes, but we should know that they should raise their hand and we'll allow them to speak, but that the town should
Okay.
moderate their time.
So yes, just as a reminder, anyone who's watching on Zoom who would like to speak, you need to raise your virtual hand in Zoom, and the time will be measured not on Zoom, so you won't see the time clock that is on Zoom. However, the 5-minute limit will be monitored here on the dais, and we'll obviously let anyone know when they run over time, or they can see that because that is also being live streamed. So
Mr. Gross, I have a question. Is it a technicality that the people on Zoom are going first, or the people that are present here, can they go first? Is it?
We can do whatever council likes. When we kicked it around, we felt that that letting the Zoom go first, because of the uncertainty of the technology, we wanted to get, in case there was something we needed to come back and fix so they could come back again, we got that second shot at it. That was kind of the reasoning that we wanted to go first, and to get obviously what we don't want to do is mix it up and have back and forth. We wanted to do the online Zoom first, get that done, and then move on to the people in the audience. But we can do it either way, Council President. That's whatever is your preference.
Okay, I'm getting hand signals here that it would be best to go first so we can work out any glitches, though I do want to respect everyone that did come because I would like the people that did come down to be heard. And if you would be patient, so because this is an experiment, I appreciate that.
Excuse me, Council President?
Yes.
And then just for the folks on Zoom, they still have to state your name and their address so we know who they
Everything's
are
the same.
and see them.
Right.
And for the record.
So you can go ahead and open up as you normally
Okay.
would.
Are there hands raised? Are people ready?
Use John's mic. Okay, thank you.
Do we have anyone ready to come in?
Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on Zoom?
On Zoom.
Please raise your hand.
No, because I'm on the public site, so you know, we can't still, somebody needs to have the.
Okay.
Well, we have no one that has raised their hand at this point, so it was an experiment done very well, actually.
Before we move on,
That could change.
Megan, how many attendees? Just curious.
17.
Oh, you can see them.
that.
Okay, thank you.
You can see the number of panelists and the number of attendees, but you can't see who's raised their hand.
Okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Council President, I would recommend that, then therefore move on to the
Public
people
person.
who are
Yes.
here in public.
Right.
I would also recommend that we close public comment for the people on Zoom, so we don't have to go back and forth.
I don't think we should do that yet. No, because I think that,
Well, this is going to be over for our Zoom is concerned. They're still on, and they're still going to watch.
right,
So,
yeah. I just think people might come
Okay.
in later or. Okay.
We'll be able to hear.
Should I say? No, I have to ask her to state her name and address.
Same thing.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
She's got to unmute herself.
She's not muted. That's what Megan said.
Okay, number one.
Yeah,
This
how
is
are
a-
they gonna hear?
Look at this team.
Well, they have it. they have it
It's
typed in.
streamed, yeah, it's streamed through the mics, but how do we hear?
How do we hear? Yeah.
It's through the mics, it's come through speakers.
our IT team is looking to see if there's something amiss.
No, I understand that, but I think this is the first time people are trying to get used to it. So that's the only reason I said that. I get that now. It's been a long meeting. Can you please state your name and address for the record? Sorry.
They control that.
Not working.
I heard her say Sally Marengo Ridge Road, and then I don't hear anything else.
Okay, if I can ask our team to maybe move over into the in one of the offices and test and see if maybe we can come back and try to pick it up towards the end of the meeting.
Or is it possible we can
Oh, try it. Can you, Ms. Malanga, can you state your name again and address?
Sally Malanga, 57 Ridge Road.
Success, thank you.
I'm getting feedback, though. I wanted to mention that it's difficult for us to hear you. Some of you are loud and clear. Mr. Gross, you are, but the rest of you, we cannot hear, at least I cannot hear you very well. So you might want to somehow test and troubleshoot that issue.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that input.
And excuse me
Okay.
1 minute, because I'm not sure if it's coming in through this microphone or what are we listening to?
Are you playing it?
But your speakers should be off. Your speakers have to be off. So you're going to have to hear them through the speakers.
Go ahead. You can try it and see if we can hear it. I don't think we will, but go ahead and try it.
Ms. Malanga, do you want to start your comments?
Yes, I first of all want to thank you for going to the effort to do this, both in person and online. I do think it is completely worth it, and I appreciate it. I have one question for the council, and maybe perhaps you, Mr. Gross. Was there a line item in the budget for townwide tree planting? I've been asking for that for a number of months, and I don't have an answer. And I'm wondering if you have an answer for our Green West Orange members and residents who are concerned and wish to have a townwide tree planting implemented once again. Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you.
Is there any other members of the public that wish to be heard? Okay. Okay.
Joe. Joe.
Oh.
He needs a key.
Probably has to unmute himself.
Mr. Kaiser, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please do so now. You're muted, Mr. Kaiser.
Okay.
Yeah, if anyone has Zoom on. Oh.
Okay, can you hear me?
That was on his end. Yes, we can. Yes, we
Okay,
can.
I just want to point out that I'm hearing an echo, but when you folks speak, it has to be into a microphone, or we can't hear.
Mr. Kaiser, can you hear?
Yes.
Okay.
So can we do a sound check?
Yes, that was sound check.
Yeah, we should go around.
I generally believe that you probably need to be about 2 inches away from the mic. I think everybody sits back, and that's been a traditional issue with these are new microphones, but you still have to get close to them.
I'll go first. Can you hear me? Mr. Kaiser, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you
I can
hear
hear you
me?
now.
This is Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ken, Susan McCartney.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ken, this is Joe Fagan. I'm standing at the podium. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Joe.
Ken, you already said you can hear me. It's Cindy.
Yes.
Hi, Ken, it's Karen. Can you hear me? Hi, Ken, it's Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And no one ever has a problem hearing me.
So thank you for the sound check.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Thank you. Kevin Malanga, 57 Ridge Road.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I would also like to say thank you for the live and Zoom meeting. We appreciate the effort that you've undergone. But there is a very clear difference in volume between Mr. Kaiser, for example, and the members of the council, and also Mr. Fagan when he was at the podium. So there seems to be a technical issue with regard to the council members in the podium versus Mr. Case. So I don't know what this distinction is going to be, but perhaps you could look into that, but it's certainly pronounced. No other comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public on Zoom who would like to make a comment? Please raise your virtual hand at this time.
Okay,
If-
seeing none, we're going to, seems like they're on the left, on my left. We're going to move to the right. People that are here in person, if you have any comment. Thank you again for your patience. Public comment, yes.
Joe Krakowiak, Grandview Avenue. Good evening. First, I want to say thanks for listening to residents and allowing both in-person and Zoom. I'm not complaining. I'm sure you'll work out the issues. I also want to applaud the men who cook. It was a great event as usual. This year, I got both of my sons to also cook. I've been trying to get them involved with more community service, and they like the idea of food, eating, cooking, and high school scholarships. Tonight, there's still lots of work to do on the budget. It goes over $100 million for the first time. Council voted to take away $40,000 from the community house, which is a bastion of service to non-privileged youngsters in our community for decades. Council people claimed it had failed to meet the growing requirements of the grant and gave the money half to Downtown West Orange Alliance and the other half to OSPAC. I urge the council to reverse this in this time of inflation, especially with gas prices, food, and interest rates are plaguing all of us, but especially the non-privileged in our community. In the name of compassion for the children, I hope the council will reconsider. After a 3-year borrowing binge where the mayor asked and the council granted approval of $62 million in borrowing, up more than a breathtaking 77% to a staggering $142 million. Since 2019, debt service has risen nearly 24%, or $1.6 million to $8.7 million. With inflation raging and interest rates that have doubled so far this year, I urge the council to develop a plan to reduce this borrowing and accelerate debt service to reduce the pressure of this debt anchor on taxpayers' throats. The mayor's proposed $1.6 million, or nearly 5% increase in the salary and wage budget appears based at least in part on a new tack he wants to take to providing raises for non-unionized managers by creating a series of salary steps implemented over a number of years. Council rejected this proposal, apparently to pay more to lower compensated workers too. And while I applaud that goal, I urge prudence in the eventual solution. Ordinance 2687 to raise the spending cap increase from 2% to 3.5% on first reading. Why do we need to spend an additional $715,000 on top of the already 2% allowed increase? I urge council to vote down this proposed spending and pass the savings back to taxpayers. This would reduce the 2% property tax levy proposed, which is the maximum allowed. And if the town's tax base declines, as it has done in many recent years, this will result in an even higher tax rate. I understand we are way behind on the state timeline for the budget. How late are we? Why are we late? And how much, if any, has this cost us? What is the status of the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee, which was created some years ago by resolution to help with the budget process? Has each of the council people appointed and gotten appointed their people to the council and got them into the process. Ordinance 2685, what provisions are variances from what is currently allowed here? Also, the ordinance does not have an ordinance number on it, so it probably needs to be added. Resolution 151, I applaud the grant strengthening local public health capacity, and that will fund 2 full-time and 2 part-time workers. How much is the grant? I couldn't find it in any of the documentation. And will it cover the costs that are listed as $235,000, or do we have to provide funding? Resolution 155, an award for engineering services at the firehouse on Ridgeway for $18,400. Was this a result of competitive proposals, or was it sole source? If it's sole source, why didn't we get competition for this? Ordinance 2686, which is for additional changes to the alternate route to hire police. I applaud the efforts to hire more police. I think we need more. The ordinance says it's red line, but I see no red line in the ordinance. Please put the red line version on the town website as soon as possible. Resolution 154 raises has a change order for a road construction of 18% and seems to blame the asphalt, cement, and fuel price index. Is this an example of the inflation that the country is seeing right now?
Your time is up.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe, I think you have to move your computer away from the microphone.
Is that good? Good evening, Madam President, council colleagues, members of the administration, and all those on the call tonight. My name is Joe Fagan, Public Information Officer, and thank you for the opportunity to address the public this evening. Tonight, I would like to start off with the flag retirement ceremony that took place earlier today at the Fire Department headquarters on Valley Road. Chief Vecchio presided over the solemn ceremony. All unserviceable American flags were respectfully retired as they were taken out of service during the ceremony. Proper flag etiquette dictates when a flag is worn and no longer fit to serve as a symbol of our country, it should be destroyed by burning in a dignified manner. I'd like to point out that this historical print here was gifted to the Township of West Orange at the annual business meeting of the 102nd Cavalry of the Essex Troop on April 23rd, 2002. It depicts President Wilson's honor guard at his inauguration March 4th, 1913. I'd like to go to the website, and on the website, if you click on the West Orange Juneteenth, as Councilwoman Williams pointed out earlier, there's a whole host of activities occurring for Juneteenth. This Thursday, there's the flag raising. I'm not going to repeat everything Councilwoman Williams said. There's a whole host of events Friday at the Rock Spring Country Club, and then on Saturday, the Arts Council is hosting an event, and of course Sunday is Father's Day, and Monday there's Economic Empowerment and Action Shop Local all day. And any information that you might want to find here is available at this website, juneteenth.com. Of course, there will all municipal offices will be closed on Juneteenth, June 20th. There will be regular trash and recycling pickup, and there will be regular jitney service. Brownies from local Girl Scout troop visited West Orange here on May 17th, and they got an opportunity to address various department heads. I think the most interesting question was posed to our town engineer, Lenny Lepore. One of the Girl Scouts asked if he ever felt like he had too much work. Our West Orange police officers posed for Gun Awareness Day on June 3rd, of course here in front of Town Hall. Memorial Day was held on May 30th. It was a very profound ceremony this year, that being on the right there, Rob Adams playing Gordon Hanson's actual trumpet from 1942 that was returned on loan to West Orange for the Memorial Day ceremony. And the other poignant moment was when Gordon Hanson's last letter home, shreds of his last letter home, were mixed with sand from Omaha Beach where he came ashore, and it was sprinkled on the steps of West Orange Town Hall by Suzanne Pinnell.
Joe, do we know that house?
I'm sorry?
Did you know that house? It looked like
Yes, that house is on Valley Way, actually, on the corner of Allen Street and Valley Way. I'm reluctant to give the number, but the house is still standing. On June 4th, as was mentioned, was our street fair. There was a great turnout. The weather cooperated, which is always helpful. And there was the car show, as Councilwoman Castellino mentioned. And the coolest part of the day was the ice sculpture, pun intended. It was a hot day, and everyone gathered around to see the ice sculpture. Also was, as mentioned, June 5th was Pride Day and Parade. Various pictures here. As part of the street fair, Christian Borges and Josie Velez, they were our rock stars. They were handing out green bags, and they also, Christian Borges specifically, he was encouraging everyone to scan the QR code and download the app. Of course, the app is available at Google Play or Google Store. And if I'm reading the analytics correctly, 84% of users are iPhone, 16 are Android, and there's close to 500 active users and close to 5,000 page views. On the first page of the app, there's 3 landing pages, and you just swipe left, and you can see under each page there are 6 different categories that you can click on. It's very easy to operate, and I have just 3 examples here: restaurants, hotels, and Rock Spring Country Club. Mention Rock Spring Country Club. It's now the #5 course in all of New Jersey. The course was designed by the well-known golf architect, the late Seth Rayner, and first opened in 1925. And of course, as you know, the township purchased the historic golf course in April 2019 and has successfully partnered with Kemper Sports since to preserve Rayner's legacy. And so it's only a matter of time before it moves up in the rankings. Getting back to the app, the mobile app, you can see all the categories here. We're going to tweak this as time goes on. There was a surge of downloads during the street fair on June 4th, of course, when it was introduced. Events, restaurants, directory, and deals are among the most popular subheadings that are opened. Even Mayor Parisi found the app to be useful. This came in late this afternoon from Mr. Keogh. He wanted me to mention Sports and Games Night, Friday, June 24th, 2022 at the pool. This is for West Orange residents only. The phone number for the rec department is there, and it can be found on the website. And I also wanted to mention that the June 23rd, that's when Downtown Thursday starts in the Valley. Crafts, food trucks, block party. Come on out. There's July 14th in St. Mark's and July 28th in Torrey Corner. These dates will be announced. As I close, I would be remiss in my duties if I did not mention that today was an 85th birthday. And before I make the reveal, I will give you a hint. It is in this room. In fact, it's not only in this room, it's in this entire building. Town Hall officially opened on June 14th, 1937, excuse me, 85 years ago. And along those lines, on June 25th at 11 o'clock, I will be giving a town hall walking tour here There's really not any walking involved. It's all about history. I would prefer that you email me to express your interest in attending. And of course, this is my contact information. If anybody has any questions about anything, please send me an email or please give me a call in the office, and I'd be glad to either give you the answer to the question or direct you to where the answer can be found. Madam President, that concludes my report tonight, and I thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Jim.
Council President,
We're all about technology tonight, right?
Council President, we're getting some, I hate to say the word feedback, some feedback from the public that they're experiencing some feedback. So that could be because we have maybe our speakers on. If we do, it also could mean if some of the people watching have speakers on, there could be feedback because again we're melding the Zoom system with our system, so all of this could play into it. So just as a reminder to the public as well, if you're to be sure to turn off any microphones that you have so that mistakenly there's no recycling of the sound. So we apologize. This is a progress in motion. So.
Councilwoman Castellino.
And I just want to add, Council President, that just for those who are on Zoom at home, not that you want to see the whole meeting again, but it is taped, as it always is, and it's going to be on online. It will be on TV 36 or 45. So the whole idea of this was to, if you didn't want to come in to make your comment, at least we heard you crystal clear, so we're able to respond to you. But any part of the meeting that may be, we hope to get this right and better, but you still have an option to see the meeting the way you normally do. So, but we could hear you crystal clear, which is great. So hopefully we'll get all the kinks worked out. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. And I also want to say to that very point is that on behalf of all of my colleagues, we are all accessible, we are all receptive, that you can reach us at council, COUNCIL, at westorange.org if you have any comments or concern that you would like to present to us. Yes, sir. Yes, please. Welcome.
Gary Sudel, Mayfair Drive. I have an issue with the...
Excuse me, sir, can you repeat your name and address slowly so I can...
Gary Sudel, Mayfair Drive.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I still didn't catch your last name.
Sudol.
Thank you.
I have an issue with the dysfunctional traffic lights on Pleasant Valley Way. I commute 27 miles to my job. I work up in Upper Bergen County, 2 towns away from New York State, so my commute is 2/3 local, 1/3 highway. And when I enter Pleasant Valley Way, I enter the tri-lane zone because the smart lights do not work. I could be at where the high school field is, where you get 2 streets coming out. I could be there Saturday, 7 o'clock in the morning, and the light will be red on Pleasant Valley Way, even though no vehicles are coming out of the side roads. I see the same thing at Kelly School and the same thing at Woodland Avenue. A turtle could cross the street while both lights are red over there. And I don't understand it. Smart lights mean the traffic is supposed to flow on the main roads. I do a lot of my shopping in Verona. I go across the street from Verona Park, 8 Hill Caterers, Town Scoop Ice Cream. If I'm coming out that side road, which is called Park Place, if the vehicle's not by that light's never going to turn green. It'll stay red, and the traffic on Bloomfield Avenue could flow. And the same thing happens on South Prospect Avenue, by the Luke Oil gas station, Bagel Ridge, and even the side street coming out opposite the Verona police station. If you're not at that light's never going to turn green. And that, to me, that's the whole idea of having smart lights. You want the traffic to flow. So another question would be, whoever invested in the smart lights is a waste of taxpayers' money on Pleasant Valley Way, because they're not being utilized the proper way. That's the way I feel.
Thank you, Mr. Sudol. Yes, sir. Mr. Charles?
Good evening, Madam President and members of the council. Ron Charles, Colonial Woods Drive. My first comment is on Resolution 151. I have the same question as Mr. Kukoviac had. Is the grant the full amount of the contract, $235,000? If not, is the balance in the OE? Was there a match from the township that was required? Second comment I have is about the budget, but not the actual numbers, but the process. I've been a department head for counties now for 37 years. It's always been a best practice that if the department heads, when the workshops and the public hearings, that the department heads are there. They're there to answer questions that the council or the governing body may have. Also, if the public has any comments or questions, specifically to that department. Not so much the numbers, but accounting for the numbers, transparent on the numbers, being held accountable, certainly overtime numbers, if you're over expenses. Those are just some of the things that I've experienced on the county level that I think is a best practice, and the department heads should be part of the workshop and the public hearings. I get it, they craft their budget, they sit down with the administration, and they hinder that out, work that out, and then the mayor presents his proposal. But I think it's also important to have them there in case you guys have questions or the public. The next item I have is, I want to elaborate on something Councilwoman Matu Brown said last week about a newsletter. Ms. Castellino and I remember when we were on the board, we had what was called board briefs. I think it's a fantastic idea for the public if the council were to adopt some kind of newsletter that's put out from the board itself, from the council itself, right? Each of you maybe have a page or 2 pages. It provides a level of transparency, of public engagement. That's something else that I would strongly recommend and I'd like to see. And the final thing, the Eagle Scout with me is cringing because the United States flag for the third meeting is on the wrong side of the speaker. By law, it's supposed to be, or by statute, it's supposed to be to the right of the speaker, which means it would be here. It's on that side, and so it should be on this side. That's the United States flag, so that's my final comments.
Thank you. Learn something new every day. Thank you, Ron. Any other questions, comments? Oh, it's Anthony in person.
Finally get to see the voice behind the face behind the voice. Anthony Puglisi, representing County Executive Joe DiVincenzo. I'll be very brief. There's just 3 events I want to bring up. First, our summer concert series begins this Saturday with a day-long festival in Orange Park. It's a gospel festival. It continues through September 10th. In all, there's about 33 events throughout the summer. Including 3 fireworks spectaculars, 1 in Brookdale Park, 1 in Branchwood Park, and 1 in Weequahic Park. And all the information I'm giving you tonight is going to be on the Essex County website, which is essexcountynj.org. In July, it's Parks and Recreation Month, and what we've done is create a month-long series of events at the Clipper Pavilion. I'm trying to say that fast 5 times, which is called Wellness on the Waterfront. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There's going to be yoga, concerts, movies, and also a fitness class. All that starts, the times vary, but it's either 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And then finally in July and August at Turtleback Zoo, we have extended hours where the zoo will be open until 8 p.m. And then on Wednesday nights, there will be movies on the top floor of the parking deck. Again, all this is on the Essex County website, which is essexcountynj.org. And it's good to see everybody in person again.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Welcome.
Good evening, everyone, Town Council members. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Maria Vera. I live in 143 Main Street. I'm a resident of this town since 19 years, more than 19 years. You know, it's a pleasure to live in this town. My daughters were educated here. The school system is wonderful. And I'm here today to express my gratitude and my respect to the fire department, members of the fire department, and as well as the police officers. I'm a proud mother. My daughter served this community since 18 years. And she's, I think, as a mother, I think she's one of the best, you know, and as well as the members of the police officers. My respect, because, you know, today I was driving to work and I heard the, you know, the alarms from the fire department, the trucks of the fire department. It came to my mind on September 11th that I was driving as well as ready to go to work. And you know, that's what I decided to come today and express my gratitude and respect to the firefighters, because they sacrificed their lives and put in danger, you know, families waiting for them at home, as well as my daughter. When she just started working as a police officer, and she used to work midnights, I could not even sleep. But I'm a very proud mother. She's 18 years, for 18 years represented, you know, the Spanish community in West Orange. She was nominated the first female Spanish officer in this town. And as well, you know, proud family, we always pray for her. And as well, you know, this year, after so many years working for the state, I decided to run for, you know, for council member. So for the November election. So I'm here to present myself as a future candidate for, you know, for the town of West Orange. You know, thank you for the time that you are, you know, giving me today. I really appreciate it, and happy Flag Day. You know, we celebrate in my country, we celebrate on June 7th, you know, and right here celebrate on June 4th. Thank you for the time. It was a pleasure to be here, and I hope to see you, you know, very often now.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? On Zoom? Anything? No? No? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Can you state your name and address for the record on Zoom?
Yes, good evening. My name is Benjamin Kleinberg. My address is 200 Mount Pleasant Avenue, Crest Ridge Apartments, apartment L4. I am speaking again tonight to express my concerns about the potential development and destruction of the forest above my home on Ridge Road. I spoke about this a few weeks ago and expressed my concerns about the potential development up there. And the issue, it seems that, you know, no action has been taken so far. And I was told that there was no active threat of development. And to be honest, my question to the township is, if there's no active threat of development, then why have I seen surveyors up there, and why are there Berkshire Hathaway signs all down Ridge Road? I'm growing incredibly concerned about the potential destruction of the forest, because those trees and shrubbery are necessary to absorb the water that accumulates when it rains or other circumstances occur. And without the trees and other shrubbery, the water will erode away at the cliff, and it is possible that we could have another Ron Jolin fiasco on our hands. And not to mention, I think at the last time I spoke, I mentioned that that a potential second lawsuit could result if God forbid, the cliff were to collapse and we did have another repeat of the Ron Jolin incident. But in recent days, I have thought that a third lawsuit could be imminent, as if new homes were to be built on the cliff and the cliff were to collapse, not only would there be a potential lawsuit from the residents of the Crest Ridge apartment complex, but also there could be lawsuits from the residents of whose homes could have potentially been destroyed by the collapse of the cliff. And to be honest, I mean, if we think this through here, if it were me, I would not want 3 lawsuits on my hands. So I must stress and essentially beseech the township to please take action and prevent the land from being developed. I actually recently sent out an e-blast to the residents of my complex, urging them to please be at tonight's town council meeting. And I was told by one of the individuals replied to my email saying they believed that the land was already purchased. They heard this from an employee at the Crest Ridge apartment complex. And if I pull up the email here, let's see. It was Jordan Barris, B-A-R-I-S. Looks like, and he works for Berkshire Hathaway in Livingston, and so I'm, as you can tell, I'm growing increasingly concerned about the situation, and I must say this again, I beseech and entreat the township to please take action as soon as possible, as time is not on our side, and I would really hate to have to come home after a long day of work and come home to a destroyed apartment building and potentially lose the kitten I recently adopted. So again, Ben Kleinberg, and I entreat the township to please take action to prevent another fiasco such as the Ron Jolin incident. Thank you.
Thank you. No? Any other?
That's it.
Okay. So now we will close public comment? Okay. I thought you were going to say something. Thank you. Again, thank you all for your patience. I just wanted to ask Anthony Puglisi. Anthony, if you would exchange information with Mr. Sudol. You know you were present. Perfect. Thank you very much. So we can address all of your concerns. You know, we would give it to our town engineer. Our town engineer would end up giving it to the county, and he's right there so that you can address your concerns directly to the county. Thank you. And thanks for bringing back Zuvies. We love Zuvies on the rooftop. Thank you. I am not going to put our assistant town engineer on the spot, though I know that she is in the room. One of the first questions that was asked was about the town-wide tree planting.
I can address that.
Okay, so our business administrator could address that. And I do know that we did get approved for the TD tree grant, which would be 200 additional trees on top of that tree planting. So, Mr. Gross,
Yeah, in addition to the trees, the funds that we've used historically, which is oftentimes is capital as well as OE expenses for different projects where we replace trees that have been taken down or invest in our tree inventory. This year we added an additional $50,000 to our tree line as an additional allocation. I've advised engineering as well that we are going to continue and put together a tree planting plan to present to council as soon as possible, and that we will be sensitive that to the extent we are ever proposing to take down trees, that we will be proposing planting of trees at least consistent with what we might lose, if not more. So it is an issue that the administration is extremely sensitive to, has been and continues to be. We look forward to highlighting that and showing it more, and that perhaps may be an area which we haven't done in the past. So.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the sound checks from Mr. Kaiser and Mr. Malenga. And John, I guess you're up next again. I do want to say to Joe Krakowiak and to Councilwoman Williams about mentioning Men Who Cook. This was the first year that I did miss that event. It conflicted with the baby shower that I did attend, and I had spoken to Althea about that. So I'm glad to hear it was a success. People are still talking about, I think, Ken Kaiser's peach cobbler, if I'm not mistaken. And Mr. Krakowiak talked about this ordinance about the cap. I think we do this every year.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
The ordinance on the cap from 2.5%.
Yeah, that's
we do this every year.
Pretty much housekeeping. It's a requirement in order to maintain the possibility, depending on some years we've used it and some years we haven't. I mean, I will note that over the last 10 years we have the lowest increase in taxes. We have less than 2% increase average over that period of time. So it is not an indicator of excess spending. It is an indicator of being sensitive to certain items are cap sensitive and certain items are not. And to the extent that we allow that, as the council knows, and frankly, this ordinance has been passed every year, usually not unanimously, it is strictly housekeeping, and the council has the ability to control its spending regardless of this. However, if indeed there are items that need to go over the technical cap that the law puts in place, it gives the council the ability to do so if it sees fit. So it doesn't force you to spend anymore. It just gives you the ability to be able to have the flexibility I think you need in order to be responsive to residents' needs.
Thank you. And we know from our budget workshop that we are just at 2% with this budget that was just that we just reviewed last week. There was another question about the Essex Regional Health Commission. I had a similar question, that do we already have people in that position already?
Yeah.
And what will this allow us to do?
Yeah, this is basically, this is an expansion to that number. It basically, it is being repeated again in the second year, and there are no cash matches. There's in-kind matches that we have to do, but there's no additional cash match for it. This extends our COVID program into another year, and it is fully funded by the grant, and I recommend that you approve it.
And there was another question about the Citizen Budget Advisory. I know I do have an appointment, and I don't know where my colleagues are with that, and I don't know if they have a chair or if a chair has been appointed. I don't know that, and I don't know if they had met.
Okay. Certainly, once, if all the council members have made an appointment, certainly a chair will be appointed, and the committee can move forward.
Great. Mr. Charles had the same thing. And Mr. Charles, I want to agree with you that I do appreciate when we have our budget hearings that the department heads are here. This was our budget workshop. Actually, department heads are here this evening. They do submit them, and they were all on call. Should we have any questions? Our budget sometimes go for 13 hours, sometimes a weekend's worth. So we chose not to do that this year, but I know that they were all at the ready if we did have any questions. But I I always appreciated that as well. And I know from conversations with my council colleagues about a council newsletter, we have been talking about that for a long time. So I think it is something that we can put together. And Mrs. Vieira, thank you so much for coming this evening to express your gratitude to our police and fire. I guess I felt like a proud mother too, and that's why I invited our newly sworn in police officers tonight, that I thought it was important that we did that locally as a community, to have their mothers and fathers and family present here with us this evening. So thank you for your comments. And I do the same thing every time. My center is right next door to the firehouse, and every time I hear that siren pull out, I say a prayer. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And Joe Fagan, thank you so much for this presentation. I did not expect that. I'm glad it worked as well. I appreciate it when the Brownies came in and asked that question, because it gave us another chance to welcome. We're so pleased to welcome Zabeth Caraballo as our assistant town engineer when they asked if Lenny had too much work. And we think Lenny retired 5 or 6 years ago. And he's still with us. So we're pleased with that, but we're so pleased to have Mrs. Caraballo with us. And about Rock Spring, April 2019, they're back full force, so we're hoping that they rise up in that rank too, from moving up. We're seeing outstanding revenue, and the restaurant back open, and events, catering events. So we just mentioned the West Orange Scholarship Fund, recognizing Hayden Moore. It was there. It was a beautiful program, and to recognize his 20 years of public service. So quite a few. The baby shower I just went to was there yesterday as well. So they're just, we wish them well. Any other comments? Today we're in alphabetical order. Councilwoman Castellino, anything to add to those, the comments made?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, let me just address to Ben from Mount Pleasant Avenue. I just want to let him know that the action that was taken at the last council meeting was the steep slope ordinance was passed. I will be happy to share any information that I have with you. I do have your email address, and we'll reach out to you. Thank you very much. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going over my notes looking. Thank you to all our Zoom callers this evening. We're glad we're able to work this out, and look forward to getting the kinks out. And Mr. Gross, your tech team, and Ms. Brill and Mr. Fagan have been working on this all week, and thank you to all of you. You know, it's very time consuming, but again, the technology, it's impressive. So we're hoping to move forward with that. And Mr. Fagan's presentation tonight, just, glad to see all that we're doing. We're trying to become a visitor's destination. We see that with our zoo, our Rock Spring, the museum, and just tying everything together and getting our visitors to come into town and visit our restaurants and our retail. So look forward to continued success on that. But thank you for that report, Mr. Fagan. My former colleague, how you doing tonight? In regards to the community house, it was a line item, and it's not that we want to take away funding. We look at those, I shouldn't say report, it was a form that was not completed and turned in. But as you know, we don't need a form. We can make a decision on any line item. It's totally up to what we approve and we don't approve. So it's not like there's a format that we had to follow on that. However, they were receiving other monies, which is great because we want all these entities to do well. But we also, we know how valuable in the great work they do, and that's why they have free use of our township pool every summer. We don't charge for that. There's other projects. I checked with Mr. Lepore. There's been projects in the past where we could help out and assist them. We do. So, and we'll continue to do that. But in this scenario, funding is also needed for other entities, and we just have to make those educated decisions each year when we go over line item by line item in our budget. And to Mr. Charles' point, the department heads are a great asset when we do have them come. The past couple, not this past 2 years, but prior to that, when they did visit us, the meetings ran one 9 hours, one 12 hours, because we do have a lot of, it is very helpful to have that due diligence and to ask them all those questions. And the past 2 years, Mr. Gross put us to task to get our answers to our questions individually. And I know I have, as well as my colleagues, spending numerous hours, and very thankful to our directors for giving us that kind of attention independently, because we all have different questions in regards to our budget. So they're always available for us, and I know I appreciate that. I speak to some of them even on the weekends, and but it is useful. You have to ask those questions. You have to know their needs, and what we're approving is beneficial to the public and for them to provide services to our residents. So I appreciate all our directors for always going above and beyond to assist us during the budget process. And I assume tonight we'll have a date for the hearing where the public can comment on it. And
Yes.
And you're going to do your presentation, Mr.
Yes.
Gross? You already start working on it?
Yes.
Okay, great. What else? What other comments did I see here? And Mr. Sudol, thanks for coming down, and everyone else who has participated this evening. And Anthony Puglisi, great seeing you, and for all that you do with the county and helping us out with some of our grant writing. And I'll be calling you, reaching out to you tomorrow. You're always great with letters of support. I have another grant that I'm working on for a visitor destination program. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Matthew Brown?
Thank you, Council President. I'm not going to reiterate anything that was already responded to, particularly questions with respect to the ordinances and resolutions. We'll discuss that at that time. But did just want to address one thing that our former council colleague mentioned about the increase in spending and having a plan to reduce that spending. Mr. Gross will tell you that when I first came on the council, I did ask if we could follow suit with respect to a plan that the Township of Wharton had, where they did an inventory of all of their municipal assets. When they were repaired, when was the last time they were replaced? It's a 5-year plan. They managed to reduce their debt service to 0, which they do not recommend because that affects your credit rating, obviously. That is a real intensive undertaking. And when I asked Mr. Gross to mimic that same plan for us, because honestly it will make each one of us as fiduciaries better prepared to make decisions when we have resolutions in front of us, particularly with all these change orders that we see coming, which I know Councilwoman Castellino constantly objects to. So I have discussed the plan. Unfortunately, that's the mayor's prerogative to intervene, because at the time the mayor did not agree that that should be done. And we're council, and as council we can only make a recommendation. However, it's not within our purview to insist that our directors or departments do anything that we request outside of answer questions. So there is a desire on my part, at least, and I'm sure the same for my council colleagues, if we were able to construct a 5-year plan, so that it just makes us better fiduciaries, but also helps us reduce debt service. So to answer your question, yes. Can we? Yes. It's up to the mayor to allow us, or a business and CFO to do so. And Mr. Charles, the newsletter idea, I was hoping that we could do instead of our council liaisons. I think that conference agenda should be for our discussions when we talk about wanting to be more transparent to the public. The discussions that, and we do have offline discussions in advance of coming to town council so that we can be better informed, understand where each one of us stand or the positions that we take on the dais. We have done that. However, conference agenda should serve that purpose for any work that we should discuss as a council, so that you understand what it is that we are, considering, if you will. For me, that's more, it should be reserved for a workshop and not the council liaisons. I know I'm in the minority here with that, but that was my hope in doing so. To Mr. Kleinberg, who called in via Zoom, I agree with you with respect to, and I think that most of us have, with respect to the need to preserve as much green space and open space as we can. I can't imagine, and I'm certainly not going to be in a position where I'm responsible for, Lord forbid, another failure and disruption of life to our residents. So I am still supportive. I would hope that the council will join me in, adjusting the budget to reflect the purchase of those, Mount Pleasant Forest, because it helps all of us, not just those who don't live on that private road, but all of us who live in this world. So I am in support of that, and hopefully we can have that discussion during the budget hearings. That's it for me, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Rutherford?
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Malanga, thank you for your comments. I am grateful that CFO has been able to provide a hybrid environment for our council meetings as well. Mr. Krakowiak, you had several comments. First that I took note of was with regard to the community house. My concern with the community house had everything to do with their failure to provide financials in a timely fashion. That was a red flag for me, and that was a 2-year in a row process, which is why I voted against it. Now, like you, I think we could have allocated those funds differently. I think it would have been better to provide some support or some additional support to the various other groups that were listed on the budget that week, instead of dividing it just between OSPAC and Downtown Alliance. But I am one of 5 votes here, and the support was for those 2. That doesn't mean that they're not deserving. It just means I had a different vision. With regard to the spending cap increase, I think Mr. Gross addressed that already. I would expect that we would need it this year, given how both interest rates and inflation are affecting budgets across the country and actually even across the world. So, it is understandable that we would see something like that. I have not made my appointment to the Citizen Budget Advisory Committee, and I am happy to do so, and will do so immediately, and hope that we can get them together to help review the budget. With regard to Resolution 151, there were multiple questions. I think Mr. Gross, if I understood him correctly, said that the grant is sufficient to cover. Right? I do have some additional questions on that, so I will reserve them for when we discuss that resolution. With regard to the firehouse, I share your concern, Mr. Krakowiak, and I will address those questions at that time when we get to that resolution as well. Thank you, Mr. Fagan, as always. I guess he's not here. Oh, there he is. Thank you, Mr. Fagan, as always. you certainly do shine a bright light on West Orange, past, present, and future. Mr. Sudol, I've heard varying responses to similar questions about the traffic lights on Pleasant Valley Way. I will certainly do a little homework on that myself and see. Many people have complained about some of the traffic, especially on weekends, but we also do have to be mindful of the heavy pedestrian traffic we have, certainly in that corridor on Fridays and Saturdays as well. Mr. Charles, thank you very much for your commentary regarding both 151 and the budget process. I do agree that it would be good to have department heads present. I think it provides an opportunity not just for the council to question, but for the public to raise question as well as be informed directly. Hear it from, as they say, straight from the horse's mouth. Those comments have been made. I do share your concern, Mr. Clyburg, with regard to the Mount Pleasant Forest. I am hopeful that the steep slope ordinance is strong enough to prevent or mitigate any of the erosion of the hillside, and also to prevent too much water runoff from that cliff around that curve on Mount Pleasant Avenue, which is the scene of many accidents already. However, I'm not confident that it is, and I think we should consider a moratorium on development on steep slopes. I've recommended that in the past. I am happy to explore that with our council president and mayor. I think we need to wait for the response from the geotechnical professionals that have been, that we have looking at these kinds of things. That may take some time, and until we get concrete data back from them, I think it's prudent for us to wait and halt development there. Now, I'm not exactly sure of the process to do that, but certainly for projects that have not yet put a shovel in the ground, it should be possible, and I am excited about the opportunity to advocate for that this week. Mr. Puglisi, as always, thank you very much. We do certainly, my family and I do certainly enjoy the summer concert series, and hope to participate this Saturday at Orange Park, where we have a gospel concert. Those that don't know, my church is in Orange. I'm a pastor there, so that is right up my alley. So thank you to our county exec and all of those that had a hand in putting together that series, as well as all of the other events Mr. Puglisi made us aware of tonight. And then finally, Maria Vera, I wish you very well in your council run. I encourage everyone that wants to run to get involved. I think it's important for people from every corner of the community to raise their voice, throw their hat in the ring. There are far too many people that want to stand on the sidelines and criticize, and they don't want to raise their hand and get in the ring and do it themselves. So I do encourage everyone, regardless of what your political views are, regardless of who you support or don't support, take that step, put your hat in the ring, get involved. Just being involved in the process makes West Orange better, so thank you very much. And then I have to just say one more thing about the budget tax presentation that Mr. Gross shared with us at the budget workshop. We certainly do have the lowest percentage increase in property taxes over that period of time, which I believe was about 10 years. Of the 22 municipalities included in the Essex County in that worksheet, we had the 11th highest by dollar value. We're starting with a high base, which means a smaller increase. You can make the numbers look the way you want to. That doesn't mean that you haven't done a good job. I'm not trying to criticize. I'm trying to be transparent. $9.5 million is still quite a bit, including where we are right now. So that's it for me. Thank you, Council President. That's it.
Thank you. Madam Councilwoman.
That's okay. I'll be brief. Thank you, Council President. Most of my council colleagues have addressed all of the questions and comments from the community here this evening. Thank you for those who participated via Zoom. Mr. and Mrs. Malenga, thank you for just recognizing that we as a council do constantly listen to the public, and we are always achieving and striving to do the best that we can. Most everything has been addressed or will be addressed in our resolutions and ordinances that we'll get to. I do want to specifically say to Mr. Charles, however, while I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to the directors of our departments, prior to me being an elected official, I did participate in the budget process, and I was a member of the Budget Advisory Committee. I sat through 3 budget processes prior to becoming an elected official. I am not interested in sitting for 12 hours, 9 hours, and repetitively. I do like the way Mr. Gross has presented and reduced the time that we spend on the budget. If I can remind the public, we were able to complete the budget review in about 5.5 hours. What I will suggest, however, is that if there are questions about the budget, about anything that we do, certainly you've heard it from each of my council colleagues, we are very, very accessible. Our department heads, Mr. Gross, is extremely accessible. So please do not let the fact that we may not be present in front of you discussing something give the impression that we are not transparent, that we do not want the public to be engaged. We welcome the public's engagement, we encourage it, and each of us are always available. I do want to make note, however, of something that I personally have noticed, and that is with one of our advocacy groups. Initially, when I was elected, some of the emails were coming directly to my account. No spam mail, no being blocked. When emails are coming from a non-direct email box, they are often blocked by our servers and not coming to us directly. So if you do want to communicate to us, even if it is a large amount of people that you want to email us directly, please, please, please email us from your personal emails so that we get those directly and we don't have to go through spam or trash or they're being blocked by our servers. We do have a municipal server, and so you know, just like with your own personal emails, sometimes Google or your servers will block spam or trash. So I just want to make that comment so that the public is aware that we are here, we are responsive, but sometimes it does get lost in trash and spam mail. So thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you for saying that, because there were many emails that we did receive that I know I have said that before, that we're not able to respond because it's coming from an advocacy group. So we are receiving it, but we can't reply to that group. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Council President,
Yes,
if I could just address a few items. In reference to the budget workshop, and we've done it both ways, as everyone knows, and what we find is that in terms of the actual event itself, it's shorter if we don't have all the department heads at the meeting and available. But as was said before, we absolutely encourage you and have encouraged, and you do, reach out to the individual department heads. And frankly, part of that, there's an advantage to that is that while what we present to you is the mayor's recommended budget, when you speak to your department heads directly, and you're getting it directly from them, unfiltered by the administration, we think there's value to that. And certainly, if you decided that you wanted to go back to the old format, we would present whatever you want. We've tried that in the past couple of years, and the response from council has been positive. And if you want something different, and we volunteered before as well, is if you just wanted to have a session that was just with department heads and to just talk, because oftentimes what happens is there's not a lot of budgetary questions, but there's a lot of questions about what goes on in the departments, which has high value. But that can be done in an alternate venue, if you like. So the bottom line to that is that we're here to give you and provide to you whatever format you want. We've tried some different things over the past couple of years in order to address some of the negatives that has been expressed. And so we're open to any ideas and anything that council would like to do.
Council President, may I?
Councilman Rutherford, yes.
I would appreciate having a session with department heads. As you know, Mr. Gross, the mayor has instructed the department heads not to speak directly to me, so that certainly does make it difficult for me to do that job. So I would absolutely appreciate either the ability to interact directly with department heads again. I believe I may be the only, and it sounds like I'm the only council person that has that restriction, or we should have a session where all department heads are present.
That is the policy. The policy is to go through the business administrator.
You just said go to department heads to discuss the...
No, I said during the budget process, we do encourage you to talk about the budget to them
I was
directly.
told not to speak to any department heads directly.
And I believe, if I remember correctly, that there was the, just to advise the administration that that was the direction you wanted to go and we'd make the arrangements, so. That doesn't mean we'll necessarily be on the call. I don't see that as an
I'm happy to
issue.
move in a new direction.
Okay.
Council President, if I may just
Council
follow up.
President, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to point out in view of this conversation, and I hope everybody knows I'm not at town hall because I've just had COVID. I'm still recovering, although I hope I'm pretty much recovered. But I didn't see the point, and I discussed with Mr. Gross, of going down there and sitting there with a mask on the whole time, which would be a requirement. So I've done it remotely today, and hopefully it's working all right. From your standpoint, I can hear you pretty well. I can hear people speak better when they're remote. For whatever reason, that system is working better than the town hall mics. But I can hear most of you most of the time. But I just want to point out that what prohibits council members from speaking directly with municipal department heads is state statute. It's part of the Faulkner Act. I don't remember the number. I've given you copies. When I say you, I mean I think I've given all council members copies of the statute at one point or another. In West Orange, we have traditionally tried to avoid following that law strictly. We have often, we're okay with council members speaking with department heads to a degree. We think it's helpful. It's particularly helpful, I think, in connection with consideration of the budget, as Mr. Gross has pointed out, and that's kind of a different situation. That's the most important function that you have statutorily. And certainly at this time of year and in connection with the budget, I think that everyone is okay with your speaking directly with department heads, asking questions about budgetary matters. But I just wanted to make that clear to avoid any confusion. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser.
So,
Yes, Councilwoman Matupra.
I just wanted to, I forgot that when Mr. Kukoviac asked the question, if you can just respond to it, because I forgot to respond to it. How late are we with the budget, and were there any fines? Are there any fines?
There are no fines, and, you know, we are outside of the statutory dates. Like many municipalities, we received a letter from the state. We informed them of what our plans were, and they advised us that the outside date for us would be sometime in July. So, you know, certainly if we went past July for introduction, not for adoption, if we went past, I think it's July 22nd, 23rd, then they might consider taking some action. But we're certainly not going to be anywhere near that. We're introducing this evening, and so that is not an issue.
And just for the public's information, the Citizen Advisory Board does not receive the budget until it's been introduced. So after today, they will be able to receive it.
So, and just to address a couple of other issues that were discussed this evening, Councilman Rutherford is correct, that if you rate our budgets in terms of, our taxes in terms of gross dollars, no pun intended, that we land up somewhere in the middle. However, that's not really an accurate measure because it's not adjusted for population. So if you took those numbers and really adjusted them for population, we'd still be, I can't tell you that we'd be absolutely at the bottom, but we're going to be very near the bottom. So, I mean, and certainly now that it's come up twice, I'll certainly do those calculations, and so we can do that. Yeah.
Make one more comment on that? To your credit, Mr. Gross, we were the 4th highest budget to start with, but we were only the 11th highest increase. So that shows that we were more fiscally responsible than at least 10 of our neighbors.
That's correct. Thank you.
That was the point.
I do want to address the issue that Councilman Matute Brown brought up in reference to the capital planning. We do a 6-year plan. It's in every year's budget, and it is not the same type of 5-year plan that Councilman was talking about. What that was, if I remember correctly, that was a 5-year plan to begin to pay down and get to a zero debt circumstance. Number one, that's the kind of decision that has to be made. Certainly with the circumstances that we're in, if we were to make that decision, it would take a lot longer than 5 years to do that. However, there are two different theories on debt and capital improvements. You can pay for it all up front, which some towns do, which means today's taxpayers pay the entire cost, and some may move out, some new people may move in. The people that move out have paid for the use of improvements that they'll never use, and new people that move in paid nothing. So one of the things that using debt as a tool is it spreads out the cost of the improvements to the actual users, because your debt is paid back over the useful life of the improvement. So it's two different theories of doing it. Obviously, some mixture of the both. It's always better to have less debt, and it's certainly something that we strive for and will continue to do. And we have been working diligently to try to reduce our exposure, especially in an atmosphere of increased interest rates. It's particularly important. But we also have the issue of who pays and who pays for improvements, and again it's a philosophical thing. But frankly, most municipalities have gone down that road, and it's very difficult. Once you go down that road, it's very difficult to turn it back. But I didn't want the public to think that there was no plan, or that it's not something that we put thought into or addressed, and we'll continue to address.
I wanted to say, though, to pay down the debt as it incurs, though, raises the question that would either leave you with no surplus, or you would have to raise taxes in order to do that.
Absolutely. You would have to get your income to a level that would sustain and particularly with ups and downs. You don't necessarily have the same debt service or the same debt needs every year. So it's a challenge. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying that it's a difficult position to do now. Given that we've already gone down the road of spreading the debt out amongst all the taxpayers as they use it. And so some of the towns that have done it have been smaller towns in nature and been able to do that. Having said that, it's certainly something that we're always looking to reduce our debt. So it's an important point.
Councilwoman Castellano.
And to that point, because when you go to your council training at League of Municipalities, the state recognizes that municipalities incur debt, and that they advise you not to, your debt ratio should never exceed, what's the number, 3.5%?
3.5%, that's correct.
And I believe we always run about 1.5%?
Well, we're running about
A little
2%.
higher.
We're running about 2%.
We're a little high, so we're higher now, so.
Yeah.
So still, again, we creeped up to my former colleague's point, but we're still way below what the state recognizes for you to keep in a range of.
And we have strategies to reduce debt that we've taken on, so that we can, address the issue as in the environment we're in. It's important for us to do that. So we have strategies for that too, to make significant dents in that. So,
Council President.
I'm sorry, Council, I just have one last point. And just, not to belabor this, because we're going to have a formal budget presentation. I guess we'll have that date before the end of this evening. But in regards to, we took on Rock Spring, and we know we have that grant that we need to, move forward with our application that would pay down a good part of that debt. So, we do have that has not been calculated in that rate.
Green
that's
Acres.
all that I'm-
yeah, certainly a significant amount of our debt increase over the past few years is attributable to saving, buying property in order to prevent it from being developed.
Right.
So that's not all, but it's certainly significant.
Thank you, Council
Councilman
President. To continue that thought, just for the public's benefit, and to your credit, Mr. Grossi, my back-of-the-napkin calculation, more than half of the $62 million that Mr. Krakowiak referenced in his public comment that has been taken on as debt, there is a near-term, I won't say short-term, but at least a near-term opportunity to repay that. So while it may be high now, and it is certainly concerning given the way interest rates are moving, there is an exit strategy for portions of that, specifically with regard to our ability to preserve open space and apply for green acres, but also with some of the other developments and how they may materialize.
Certainly conceptually, that's part of our strategy.
Right. That'll be a big chunk, right?
Thank you. Councilman.
Thank you. Just to piggyback off of that as well, I just want to point out, I know that our former council colleague always points to the increase in our debt service. When I came onto the council, I was quite surprised that the budget that was before us was either a 8.25% increase or a 12% increase. And that was in 2018. During a time where former Councilman Krakowiak was a council member. So there was a lot of increase that happened in that year, well, in those years leading up to it. I would prefer to see, and just so that the public is aware, one of the things I also learned coming on as an elected official and learning what comprises the budget is that we do have a lot of state mandated requirements for us to pay, and there is no additional state aid or anything that we have to make up for, increasing costs that are required of us. And when we don't keep up pace, I know that the mayor has always liked to, not increase taxes, and who doesn't want their taxes not increased? We all would like that. But for me, when I came on, I thought it was a matter of like kicking the can down, the road. I would rather see, as a resident taxpayer myself, increases that match or cover what the state increases are to all of our services. So I don't want the public to just hear, oh my God, there's ringing of the alarm here because of our debt service. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot that goes into that. And I think that I would prefer everyone to understand that, yes, there is, and while I do want a debt service reduction plan, we are always looking for ways to cut our taxes, and we have been paying our debt service down. And to Councilwoman Castellino's point, once Green Acres has been determined, that's going to be a huge reduction in where we are with our debt service. So I just wanted to make that, make the public aware of what it is that, and why we have to increase taxes. But thankfully this time it's not going to be the 8.25% that I was greeted with when I first joined the council, when Councilman Kukoviak was then on this dais. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk? Yes.
Okay. The consent agenda, approval of minutes of previous meeting, May 24th, 2022.
Consent.
Report of township officers, none. Reading of petitions and communications and bids. Planning Board Resolution Number PB 22-01, Pleasantdale Chateau and Conference Resort, Inc. Is there a consent?
Consent. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to do one at a time that way. Planning Board Resolution, West Orange Historic Preservation Commission presentation, proposed designation of certain properties as historic landmarks, George V. Hecker Carriage House, 36 Ridge Road.
Consent.
Bills. Are there any questions on the bills?
Consent.
Okay. Resolutions. Are any resolutions being pulled this evening?
So thank you, Madam Clerk. I do have a couple of questions. One, I wanted to start with Resolution 149-22. This is the execution of a parking agreement for parking licenses for the township. This is in our municipal lot at 14 Northfield Avenue. I see that there will be permits issued, that it has been determined and it has been reviewed by the Downtown Alliance and our Traffic Bureau also, that there are spaces available and that the permits would be issued at $140 per parking stall. But I did not see in the parking agreement, I would want that to stipulate that that expense will be borne by West Crescent and not the tenants.
West Crescent is the owner of the property, and that property may or may not be sold. So you wouldn't want West Crescent to be responsible for that. You want it to exclusively be whoever's the current owner.
Okay, all right, so, okay, thank you. Right, so that, I just don't want that to be borne by the tenants because there are variances involved here, and I don't believe that the tenants...
Nor would you want to stipulate that it couldn't be borne by the tenants, because if the owner of the building is going to take that fee and roll it back in, and the tenant ultimately pays for it, you don't want to handicap the owner in that capacity. Yeah. You just want to make sure that the fee is paid to the town, however it gets paid. But I wouldn't want to stipulate that the owner of the property is the one that has to be responsible, because then we're making that owner responsible for fees that no other person or homeowner or building owner may have to. However the fees get to us, they get to us.
Councilwoman, I'm sure this was a discussion on Downtown Alliance. Yes, please.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, so myself, Ms. Brill, representation from the owner, well, actually the owner himself, and representation, and Chief Abbott, and some other officers. This has been a work in progress. If you recall, this was on our agenda a couple of months ago, and right away, you know, we wanted it pulled because we wanted it to make sure that this would be, you know, productive for what we're trying to do in that downtown corridor. We don't want to take parking spaces away from business owners. We want to make sure that, you know, where the spots would be, because you don't want them too close to the businesses. We're also implementing some 15-minute and you know, 2-hour parking spaces. So this is a whole part, and again, I'm sorry, Mr. Gross, he was included in the discussions as well. His experience from when he was in South Orange, creating that parking authority. You know, these, you know, this is what we're going to move forward to looking at a parking authority as the downtown develops. But for now, is we the owner itself, because we want to support the developers that want to come in, bring foot traffic with the tenants into that section of downtown. So we were trying to find the balance. And the balance was decided from those meetings and walking the parking lot, was that there wouldn't be, there'll be selective spots of where they'll be able to park. However, they'll be giving the permits. The residents, to Councilwoman Williams' point, they would pay for the parking spots, not the developer, because if you look at other towns, that's the, when you're creating parking authority, it's up to the tenant to pay for their spot. That's the way it is with Edison Lofts. They're supposed to be paying for their spots within the building. And, the developer should not have to pay for the parking spots for the tenant. So with that all being said, we also didn't want restrictions, because as we move forward and develop our downtown area, we also want to have the flexibility to increase parking permits where needed. So this will be a work in progress. We feel this gives support for the developer to move forward, to go to the planning department, to know that the township is willing to have permit parking. Now, to say that there's already permit parking existed in that parking lot. We're talking about the Hanson lot. So there are some spaces. What we also discovered was the parking fees are very low, and we were finding out that there was people that were not from the township parking there and utilizing those spaces. Now, the ordinances are very old. Mr. Gross, and Chief will be with Mr. Lepore and the downtown, looking at the various lots in the area. So as we move forward with our development and our growth in the downtown, we'll be looking forward to the appropriate rates and fees. So this gives us the flexibility to do that at this time.
Councilwoman Kesslin is 100% correct on this. This is a 5-year agreement for 12 spaces, and so it is a limited time. We did thorough utilization studies of the affected lots to make sure that we had the ability, and that certainly for that period of time that we could accommodate this. Obviously, at that point, sometime in the future, at 5 years, determination will be made whether or not we are in a position to extend that or not. So it is. I think this is a reasonable way to deal with this now, and yet let us grow in the future. The agreement allows for the $140 now, and to extend during the term if whatever amount is set by ordinance and by resolution of the council would be reflected. So it gives us the flexibility we need. Gives the owner of the property the ability perhaps to move forward with the redevelopment and satisfy the needs of the planning board. So we think it's a fair compromise for this 5-year period.
I had a question, Council President.
I just wanted to go back and follow up on Councilwoman Castellino. And are we in the process of reviewing ordinances? And is there anything in the ordinance that says that it is restricted to West Orange residents only?
So that was something that we need to make a decision on. And because we did have, with the rates now that are extremely low, we were finding some business owners parking vehicles, and we've addressed that issue right away.
Yeah, we're addressing that, and just like anything else, people respect what you inspect, and so we've upped our game, and we're maintaining a watch on the spaces and doing enforcement, and we will continue. We will also, and this agreement gives us that flexibility, as we learn more and make determinations of, for instance, the best places for people to park within the lot and where not to park, we'll be able to select those. So that gives us the ability to accommodate the property owner, but reserve the rights of the township moving forward to make sure that we can protect our interests in parking, which are extremely significant.
And to protect our business owners.
Yes,
So
well,
we're not taking away from their patrons as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant in terms of protecting our interests. You know, our property, the surrounding property owners have to have use of those spaces too. So a shared parking scheme is extremely smart in a downtown area like this. But you have to do it in such a way to make sure that we're meeting the needs, and that's our objective. And this agreement gives us that flexibility to be agile and make changes as we need. So,
Councilwoman Matupra.
Thank you. I just wondered, is the redevelopment of the property just remodeling of the apartments, or is there a different plan? Because that's where the CNP, right? The CNP treasures and, yeah, no, I know they're gone, but that's that lot. The drum studios, that's a small lot right across the street from the gas station.
yeah, I don't want to speak to the extent of the redevelopment, other than just because I'm not really involved in that, but that the redeveloper feels that they need these additional spaces in order to go before the planning board. Still, the planning board still has to decide whether or not it's sufficient or not, based on whatever the plan is. So that's something for the planning board is going to have to address. We think that we can afford to dedicate 12 spaces for a 5-year period without compromising our interests. Now it'll be up between the developer and the planning board, depending on what the developer is planning and what they're going to submit to the planning board, and to determine whether that's sufficient or not.
So I think my perspective when and the reason I ask is that I feel like it's almost like we're putting the cart before the horse, because they still have to go to the planning board to get the variances. And it would seem to me that, obviously I do think that it is a good idea. It's, some vacant apartments, there are business owners there, but I wonder, or I can't help but wonder, that if the council does approve this, is that a signal or a sign to the planning board that, this is something that the township is supporting in advance of them making their decision.
I think it's a sign that the township feels that they have sufficient additional parking to accommodate an additional 12 spaces over the next 5 years, which means nothing more than a shared parking scheme is something that the township feels is reasonable. It does not say that the project that is being proposed it meets any test. It's just that we've done our evaluation and feel that we can express to the planning board, so when they do make their decisions, that they feel that someone has looked at this and said, can we do it or not? Because otherwise, it's a catch-22. The same thing on the side of the planning board. The applicant goes and says, well, I'll get that from the town. And so, well, will the town give it to you? Does the town think that that's reasonable? So it's kind of chicken and egg kind of thing. We're not, we're not asking you to do anything other than to express the willingness to lease those spaces. It's up to the applicant to make a determination and to talk to the planning board about the benefits and the reasons to approve it on their part.
I don't have any other questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but I had similar concerns, and if Ken Kaiser is still on as Zoom, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, just as planning board liaison, that I was thinking the same thing. Should I abstain? It's really a question for Ken. Should I abstain until we hear this application as the planning board liaison?
I'm still here. I have to be here. Not going away. And I don't see really a problem. I think that as really inferred by what Mr. Gross said, the the township council and the planning board have separate roles, separate functions here. And there is a question perhaps as to which should go first. I think logically that the township council would go first to indicate their willingness to allow this to happen. It doesn't mean the planning board has to allow it to happen. But it's now the planning board knows that it's okay with the town if they decide that it's okay to do this. So I don't know how else you resolve a problem like this. I mean, if you get to stalemate, then you can't do any of this stuff. So I think it's perfectly okay.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Mr. Kaiser, for that, because we do want to see that investment in our downtown. Thank you.
And not only that, I
Councilwoman
wanted
Mendes.
to add that this is very similar to me when I read through the process of what we did with our affordable housing on Ken Albert, on Tompkins Place. They have no parking. And he was willing to dedicate lots or spaces in a lot that's to be built or wasn't complete. So I think it's the absolute same thing. You have to show that you're willing to give residents somewhere to park.
Good analogy. Thank you. Councilman Rutherford.
Thank you, Council President. So I applaud the willingness of the administration to be creative in this regard and provide some relief for parking, certainly on a main street. My only question is, how do we come up with $140 a year? I mean, that's less than $12 a month.
It's our current rate.
So
That is a budgetary question, and in terms of our fees, and that's certainly something we can.
So we're not allowed to charge a different fee for this particular project?
Not without an ordinance.
Not without an ordinance.
But we have to up it. We do
Not without an
Yeah,
ordinance.
because that, I mean.
But if we do decide to up it, it should be consistent throughout town. We aren't going to target
No, I'm
specific
not trying to target this
parking lots.
particular place, but we have this one before us.
It is, for overnight parking, it's actually not incredibly low. It's probably low, but it's not incredibly low. Like, for instance, a commuter space is $800-900, but you're talking about during the day, that's prime time, as opposed to overnight space. And we're talking about a shared parking scheme.
Right, so they come in at a certain time, they're allowed to park, and then they have to be out by a certain time, similar to what happens at Bethany and some other places in town. I get it, but still at $12 a month, that certainly requires a second look.
There's a lot of fees that we can look at moving forward.
Agreed.
Council President.
Just Councilwoman Castellino.
And just to that point, Councilman, I know, and again, different college town, but when my son was at UDEL, it was $100 a month to pay for that kind of space. So again, different scenario, college town, parking is big in demand. So yeah, we had tasked Mr. Gross with not so much creating the full parking authority at this point, but we need to start upping these fees. And I'm glad to hear the appetite of the council to move in that direction, because, again, as the downtown grows, parking premium will grow as well, which is a good thing. It brings commerce, and it also brings revenue there. And again, just one point too, also our chair and other members of the downtown were also included in the conversations. And we were concerned. We're definitely concerned at the spots, but there is parking allowed now. This is just guaranteeing 10 for that particular site.
12.
12, sorry. Well, 10 in this lot, and I believe 2 in the lot behind.
Well, again, we reserve the right to be flexible as our needs to where they might be on an annual basis, so.
And so we approve this tonight, it's at the $140 rate, but in 6 months from now, we up the rates, that when they go to take out a permit, which will be a couple of years from now if they pass, then it's going to be at the higher rate. So even though it's $140 now, it won't be by the time they'll be applying for a permit.
Councilwoman
Thank
Mitchell
you.
Brown.
Thank you. That was going to be my question with respect to, if we approve it tonight, and then, in a few months,
Time of
whether,
decision, right, not,
then their cost will also.
Depends. Look, this project is going to be a while before it opens its door and they apply for their first permit. So,
But we reserve that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you, thank you. Councilman Rutherford?
Thank you, Council President. I'm just curious, have we thought through an enforcement plan? Is this going to be, you'll be out by a certain time for everybody, and then if you're not, you're towed? Or how would residents that have paid for the parking permit, if another vehicle is in their spot after the appropriate time, how would they address that?
When we actually get to the point of selling a permit, the permit will be sold with its whatever restrictions are in place at that time. So that gives us the ability to, again, to formulate. We talked a little bit about it before. I didn't go into detail, but we have lots of space right now, so it's not a big deal, But as time goes on, our need to place restrictions may very well grow. In which case, then we would place those on an annual basis when we go to sell the permit. It'd say, okay, well, this particular permit, this is what it's good for. This is the time frames, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, they'll be color coded, and that to help us with they'll have to be displayed in the vehicle, so that helps us with enforcement, so that we know what the rules are. The officers will know that. But so that is to be developed. And again, this is done in a manner to allow us to grow together, if you will, over the next 5 years, so that we can be accommodating as long as it's easy for us to do, and then when it becomes difficult, we can put some restrictions on it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Council President.
Yes, Councilwoman Mitchell.
I'm sorry, and I'm going to direct this to Councilwoman Castellino, because since she's been involved in the conversations, and while Mr. Gross didn't want to go into it, what type of redevelopment? Because I keep hearing redevelopment.
So I said development. I believe I heard redevelopment somewhere.
Yes.
It's a it's maybe a renovation, but it's not a redevelopment zone. It's development.
Okay.
Yeah, it's development, and it requires, it definitely will require planning board approval to, in order for them to do that. It's not, I'm sorry, it's not a redevelopment zone. If I said that, I misspoke.
Okay,
I apologize.
The term in the resolution is renovate.
Yeah, it's renovation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I did hear you say redevelopment.
Thank you. Great. Okay, and that was just a question, so nice, good discussion. On Resolution 15322, this is not a question, but this is to commend Montclair State and the partnership that we have with them with the School of Nursing. And we saw that numerous times in the presentation from Joe Fagan, that the Montclair State School of Nursing, they have been involved in our street fair, they have been involved in so many, right now at the Pride Parade, they were there last Sunday. They were actually enjoying the parade, the vaccinations that they do with the West Orange Hispanic Foundation. I don't know, I remember seeing them, the Love and Unity Fair, so they have been present at so many of our local organizations. So thank you for that. Any other comments or questions on the resolutions?
In order, or just jump in?
Yes, sir.
Sure. I've got questions on a few of them. 151. I'm sorry. Did we just do 150? No.
151 was the Essex Regional Health Coordinator.
151, 155.
Councilman, are you pulling those, or you just have questions?
You know what? I'm going to pull them. I think I may vote no, so I want the option to.
Okay, so 151 and 155?
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question on 157. I don't know if this is even possible given the timeframes that we're dealing with, but it's it says the budget shall be read in full or may be read, this is 157. Budget shall be read in full or may be read by its title if, number one, at least 1 week prior to the date of the hearing and at the hearing, A complete copy of the approved budget shall be made available for public inspection, shall be made available to each person upon request. Is it possible to increase that? I mean, it's a significant budget. Most people that are not elected or working in town hall are going to need, some time to kind of work through that. Can we increase that period of time from 1 week to 2?
Well, this is statutory in order to read it by title instead of me having to read the entire budget here tonight. So this is a statutory resolution. Having said that, we've already made it available. It's available online. So it's a moot point in the sense that, of course, we're going to provide it. We've already provided it. And
for clarity, we are able to be less restrictive, or in this case, like we are able to be generous, more generous than the statute.
Sure.
We can't be
Absolutely.
less.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. That was my question on 157. I don't think I have any others on the resolutions.
Excellent, thank you. You said no? Yes? Okay.
I have 151-22. Are we pulling it?
Yes.
Okay.
And did we pull 153?
No.
No. Oh, that was just commending the Montclair State. 155, though, Bill, you did pull 155.
I did.
Okay.
Is 153 being pulled?
Councilman Castellino, did you have any other questions, or?
I just want to, 154, I just want to let the residents know that it's a change order. We're paving Arvern Road, Crestmont Road, a portion of Westover, and that's it. So I can look forward to some of the street.
So you're not pulling that? So my understanding...
No, I'm not pulling, I'm not pulling.
Right. So this was some pump work that was done, and the water is getting pumped into the street, and the change order is to redirect the water to the sewer.
Council President, I'm sorry.
Councilman.
I do have a resolution I'm pulling, is 160.
160.
Yeah.
And 159 as well.
It's on the revised agenda.
Yes, it's on the revised agenda for the public who may be listening. Those were a late addition. They're on the revised agenda. It's Resolution 159 and Resolution 160.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is implemented. Resolution 151-22, resolution authorizing professional services agreement with Essex Regional Health Commission for Outreach Coordinator. Councilman Rutherford, you pulled this.
Thank you, Clerk. I have several questions regarding this particular resolution. First, is this a new grant?
I'm sorry?
Is this a new grant? Is this the first time this grant was offered?
No, we're actually, we're in practice now, and it's being extended another year.
So when did we first apply for this?
The first application?
Yeah.
I can't give you the exact date, but it would be more than a year ago.
Okay. Now, the commentary earlier said that we have, with regard to the 2 part-time positions, we have people already identified for those, so we don't have to hire.
Yeah, we're not employing them. Essex County Regional is employing them.
Right, but these employees are already employed with the township, is that correct?
They're not employed with the township. We're not paying them. Essex, they're
For
paying.
this, are we paying those employees for
No.
anything else?
No.
Okay. So those 2 employees, the part-time employees, do not currently do any work for the township?
They are not employed by the township.
It says the focus, there's this, I know it came out of COVID, but it speaks to communicable diseases. Are we focusing primarily on COVID, or are we focusing solely on COVID?
No, it's COVID money, but it is broad-based in terms of infectious disease.
So do we have any additional foci for this particular grant?
I'm sorry?
Any additional foci, plural focus? Another focus? Are we
No,
going
I
to
mean,
add something
this is a grant that was given to us by the state with certain objectives, so the focus is directed by the grant.
So we're not allowed to we're not allowed to add another, if there's an issue that we face in this community in particular, we're not allowed to add to that. We have to go with what the state says.
I would say that we have a reasonable relationship, that if there are things that, and which I'm sure they work very closely with the health department, that are important to the health department, that the individuals that are working in this would be cognizant of things that were important to us as well. So, you know, depending on what you had in mind, I mean, we certainly can't rewrite the grant, and we have to meet the objectives of the grant. Does that mean that we can have influence on additional objectives? I would suspect the answer is that yes, and I'm certain that the health department would be already doing that.
Okay, so but we don't have that now. We're not looking to add to this or take away from it in any way, shape, or form.
Well, again, this is a program that is now, I'll say, at least 1 year mature. As it has developed, I'm certain that the health department has done that kind of tweaking, if you want to call it that, already.
It's COVID focused, it's COVID money, it's meant to help, you know, mitigate the effects of COVID and the spread within communities and all of that.
Sure.
Right, and we're seeing that COVID is certainly less deadly, less serious for those that actually do get it. They don't end up in hospitals as much. And so the expectation is that we're going to return to some level of normalcy. And so at some point, assuming we do, we've got objectives in here that may not need to be met. And I'm wondering if we have the ability to switch gears and focus on something else.
While I certainly share the desire to get back, that we would get back to quote-unquote normal before the termination of this, I think, you know, that if we've learned anything is that there is no, the expectation of normal is probably going to be in and out, you know, whereas we're now in a somewhat downward trend. We were retired the past month. That type of cycling is probably going to continue. Having said that, Councilman, if there is number one, I'm certainly not an expert on this grant. If there's a particular focus that you'd like to discuss with myself, and I certainly can get that information for you, and certainly put you in touch with the department head to get more details, certainly, that I can give you.
Certainly do appreciate that. Last question is just to be certain. So this grant does cover the full amount of what needs to be spent under this grant. We don't have to have a matching portion. The township's not.
There's no additional.
Okay.
There's I believe there are non-cash matches. There are two different kinds of matches. There's a cash match, and then there's in-kind. And in-kind is office space and things of that nature, which by definition we do, you know, that type of thing.
You know, I'm looking at the dollars, so that's what I wanted to be clear on. Those are my questions, Council President. Thank you.
And just,
I'm sorry, yes, Councilwoman
there's
Kessler.
also an out clause in number 7, so, you know, 30 days prior to the end, yeah, and it renews yearly, so it's not a forever thing. So there looks like there's some flexibility. If, like, to your point, if things are winding down to the extent that it's not needed.
Can you hear her?
That's all.
Councilwoman Castellino, can you speak into the mic because they can't hear you?
Oh, I was just saying that there, sorry, apologize to the public. There's just an out clause, like this is for 1 year. It would have to be renewed each year. And unless terminated by either party by written notice 30 days prior to the end of then current term, subject to municipal council approval. So there is an out clause for us.
Councilwoman Kessler, I'm sorry, please.
Thank you, Council President. I'm not so much worried about whether or not the services are completely encompassed. I was confident that the $235,000 pays for the services. My question is, how much of the $235,000 goes toward their pay, and if there is any service fee that is deducted from this, so it does not go towards the employees and the part-time employees, the 2 additional part-time employees that are required.
Yeah, the grant will pay for other expenses other than employees. I certainly can get you a breakdown of that. I don't have that here for you tonight, but it definitely does. We're one of the things we're looking at is whether or not we can use it for notification purposes. To get the word out to the public on health events or health needs. One of the things we've identified, obviously, is really important to be able to communicate with on an almost immediate basis, or certainly a very quick basis, to a majority of our residents when these things start to percolate and when they ramp up. So there are other expenses that are covered in here other than the salaries.
And then my follow-up question is, do we have to do this grant through Essex Regional Health Commission? Is that better for the township to not directly hire? Is it a requirement of the grant to use an outside provider? I was just curious as to why Essex Regional is.
It was a choice that we made. They're doing the hiring, so they pick up some of the overhead that we would have, some of the in-kind that we would have done, they're picking up because they wanted to administer the grant. They were able. We had an employee that worked for us and worked with our aging population. And they were willing to take that employee on, where we would probably not have been able to maintain that because of the costs. So that person now is available to us, continues to be available to us, and has done a great job. So there are definitely advantages for us to doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, because we saw that. We saw this in work. In practice, really, with the vulnerable population.
Mm-hmm.
So between the heat or snow, ice, so we see the fact that we can use the funds for notifications.
Yes.
Very important. So do we need to take a voice vote on this? Because
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 15122?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
yes.
Okay. Resolution 155-22, resolution authorizing a professional services contract with Frank Lair to provide professional services for the retaining wall improvements of Firehouse Number 3 for a fee of $18,400. Councilman Rutherford, you pulled this.
Thank you, Clerk. I'm curious as to how we selected Mr. Lair.
Yeah, Mr. Lair had done a very similar job for us in one of our parking lots. Sometimes these types of retaining walls are tricky. So our town engineer asked Mr. Lair to look at this project and to quote on it because of experience and specific experience that he had with him on a similar project, and on that basis.
Isn't it above the bid threshold, though? Don't we have to?
There are no bid thresholds for professional services. It is above the pay to play, and that, so the pay to play is 17.5. So if it was less than 17.5, that wouldn't require a resolution, but because it does.
So you don't think it's prudent to put that out to a bid? You didn't think, even with his experience, it'd still be prudent for us to see what the market would charge?
I certainly am a big proponent of doing that type of analysis and on projects, but you have to determine at what point are you going to do that versus knowing the product you're going to get. If as I believe that our township engineer certainly has the years of experience to know the difference between when a job should just be put out to everybody and say, hey, give us proposals, or if it's a matter of certain level of complexity where he feels that that he can find the right person for the job. The variations on these, if you go back and look at the types of jobs that we award of this nature and this size and this dollar amount, the prices don't vary much. So, what you may be giving up on that, certainly Township Engineer believes, is made up by making sure that they get the right person to do the right job. So,
my last question is, when was it brought to the administration's attention that this work needed to be done at Firehouse 3?
I have to defer to the Township Engineer on that question. I don't know the answer specifically when that was brought to his attention.
So you have no idea when that happened?
I have an idea when I've learned about it, and it's in the last few months that I've learned about it. Now, before then, I just don't know the answer. When?
Yeah, I'd be curious to know that too. That's it from my questions, Council President.
Councilwoman Kessler.
Yeah, I just want to add for the sake of our newer colleagues. So about 4 or 5 years back, we initiated a facility study of all the fire stations, all the firehouses. I'm not sure if this particular project was included in that, but that's why you'll see time to time you'll see improvements on each of our fire stations. So there is a plan. Time to time I asked Mr. Lepore to give us an update of where he's at. He's not here tonight because I talked to him earlier in the day to see where we were. Headquarters had a lot of improvements, and I believe most of that work has been completed. Being there today, I had asked a few questions to some of our firefighters, so I know they're very happy to have their new bathroom. But yeah, so there's a whole, there was a facility studies on each house. However, I'm not sure if this was added.
I think this has come up outside of that. I don't think that was part of this. I believe.
Which, time to time, that happens with emergent situations. Thank you.
I didn't mean to chuckle, but I do know it was a Flag Day ceremony, and I know that you were in there inspecting the site, so. Sorry.
Is there a motion to approve 155-22?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 159-22, resolution approving a 10-year reorganization plan in the 2022 municipal budget. Councilwoman Matute Brown will pull this.
Thank you. For the public and for my council colleagues, this was before us during our last council meeting. I voted against this when it was a 5-year plan. Now we're looking at a 10-year reorganization plan. It is no secret that we are having a changing of the guards, if you will, with the mayor not running or seeking re-election. I don't think it justified for a new incoming administration, whoever that administration is, to be saddled with a reorganization plan that's either 5 years, 2 years, and 10 years is certainly far too long. I do realize that there were some conversations that were had which saw a reduction of $23,308 in the 10-year reorganization plan versus the 6-year reorganization plan. But nevertheless, I just want to remind my council colleagues that the impact of this budget for the 2022 is still $43,150. And when we're looking at a budget at where to cut, it's so difficult for us to find. But this one is staring us right in the face. So I pulled it to vote against it, as I was before.
Thank you, Councilwoman Matute Brown. Did you have a question?
No, I'll comment.
Well, I just wanted to say that we did have this discussion during the budget workshop. We did say how difficult it is when these special requests do come up, and that it really should not be the council doing this, and I felt that this was a fair and equitable way to spread that across, to create steps. These are all for the non-contractual employees. So that was the reason why I voted yes. Councilwoman, sorry.
Thank you, Council President, and to my colleague, because I did initially vote against this. However, I did say at the last meeting, you know, I was supportive of the concept. I couldn't support the last one because these positions weren't contractual. You were able to take them out for a longer span. You know, going through this year after year with these special requests, a lot of positions in the past, I mean, years ago in the contracts, longevity was included, and that created a lot of inequities for some staff that was hired after that went away. So, you know, we've been through this you know, for several budget hearings. Also, and workshops where, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why the meetings were 9 and 12 hours, to tell you the truth. Very tough, difficult conversations, but just being in the right marketplace. I myself went online and made some calls and looked at the various positions to make sure that they were in the right, you know, that we weren't overpaying certain positions in comparison to other towns. So I did my homework there when Mr. Gross came up with, when he pulled this guide out. I think it will make it easier on whoever is the new administration moving forward, not to have to engage, and you know, it's pretty much crystal clear. You know, you start on step 0 and you end on step 10 for the various manageable management positions, and they're 3-tiered. So I am going to support this tonight. I appreciate Mr. Gross going back and doing the due diligence, because I was not comfortable with the other plan, and I hear all your comments this evening, and I agree with you on many of them, but I was comfortable with this evening. Thank you.
Council President, if I just may follow up to a point that you made with respect to, you know, having the these positions looking at some sort of equity, because that's how that was posed to me. I'm going to look at equity when we look at our employees. As I stated last time, not that they are not our employees, they are non-contractual, it's true, but that was also a choice to, when you move up to upper management, that typically happens, you're no longer in a collective bargaining unit. It's a choice that you make because of the salary that is increased being outside of that collective bargaining unit. So that is a concern to me, particularly because we want to change the culture of where we've all been, where every organization, every administration, you know, even if we look at the Board of Ed, it's just top heavy. And it's not equitable to me when we're looking at people in on our salary rosters that are, you know, not making $32,000, which is not even a livable wage. So just wanted to express that for the public as well.
But Councilwoman, I'm going to go back there, and you know, those people on that lower scale are, you know, they're contractual, and it's up to their union leaders to, you know, to fight for them and to raise the bottom of the guide. As we all know, always the bottom of the guide, even, and I sat there. I sat in that chair as a school board member, negotiating, you know, for the school board, but yet trying, you know, to work on membership, you know, raising the lower steps. So again, these are tough decisions, I hear you, but you know, we need to have incentives for people to stay with us. That longevity is out of contracts. We need a reason for people to want to come here and see where they fit on with various positions. So it's going to cost us a little bit of money, but I think over the process and the term of this over 10 years, it will put us in a better position to retain and to acquire professional staff.
Council President, if I may just respond. Thank you. As you know, and so does everyone on this dais knows, that I am a union person, a laborer, a union member myself, and now a staffer at the teachers union. However, that notwithstanding, when it came to the contracts, and I'm going to the point that you made, Councilwoman Castellino, that we want to attract and retain, 100% agree with you. But when it came time to do the same for the contracts of the fire and the police, I did vote no. And that was probably very shocking to a lot of union members. But I voted no because I support fair contracts, fair labor contracts. That contract was not fair to our residents or our municipal budget. And I was very clear with the union leadership when we spoke in advance, because they knew exactly where I would be on this. Again, having sat at that negotiation table as the president of a local, they gave up their future health retiree benefits. And that alone, with not having the understanding of what those contractual impacts we're going to give to our budget that year, the next year, or the following year. Now we're looking at a budget that everyone's saying, why is the police and fire so high? That line item is $1.5 million. It's because of the contracts that were approved, and we didn't know exactly what that impact was going to be, but we're seeing it now in this contract. Now, when we're looking at the $43,150, I think that we're not being realistic in understanding that that also does not account for pension payments that we are going to pay out for a 10-year reorg plan. There's a lot of minutia in here that we're not really talking about, and that's where I am coming to my council colleagues to say that it's not just $43,150. It's that plus pension payments. That plus the what is the plan that we implemented with the new contracts, 434, what is the?
By the 457.
457. It will stick with me one day, I promise. The 457 plan, which is an additional contribution that we give, 14% of that, right, in those contracts that we gave, there's also that contribution that's not included in here. So it's not just a little bit of money. It is a lot of money for 10 years. And I think I've exhausted what I'm going to say, but I'm a no on this. Thank you, Council President.
Councilman Rutherford.
Thank you, Council President. So, Councilwoman Castellino, I certainly understand your position with regard to unions, and they absolutely should fight for the entry-level employees and members of their union. But I think so should we. And I think we should be responsible when it comes to setting scale at the bottom of the scale, certainly for entry-level folks. We've had difficult time attracting people into certain positions because it just doesn't pay enough. And part of the reason why it's hard to pay more is because we give so much to the folks at the top. And there's some folks, some departments that have multiple six-figure salaries at the top. And we're starting people off with wages that if they have children, they would require food stamps. So there's absolutely no way that I can support this for those reasons and the reasons I stated in the budget hearing. Now, with regard to what Councilwoman Matute Brown just stated with regard to public safety contracts, I did vote for those. I voted for those because I think in order to maintain a safe town, we're going to have to, as the town has grown over the course of time, we're almost 50,000 residents, we're going to have to invest in those departments. And we're going to have to be able to attract quality talent. We've seen challenges in other municipalities and other parts of the country And if we're not investing in those departments and attracting top talent, we will face some of those same challenges. So if we ask them to put their life on the line, we should be able to compensate them fairly. And I think it's the same thing here. While these employees aren't necessarily putting their lives on the line, it's the folks that do the day-to-day work that make West Orange the beautiful place that it is. And those are the folks that the work falls on their desk. They're actually putting in the legwork or the grunt work. And so if we want to attract talent that will ultimately stay and move up the ladder, we've got to pay something that's competitive and that will allow them to provide for themselves and their family, especially in an environment like we're in right now. So for those reasons and a few more, and it's already 9:30, we had a light budget. a light agenda, and we're not even done with it. So for those reasons and more, I'm also a no on 159. Thank you, Council President.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 159-22?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
No.
Councilman Rutherford?
No.
Councilwoman Williams? Council President McCartney?
Yes.
160-22, resolution reinstating the mayor's recommendation to fund the position of Executive Director, Housing Authority / Planning and Building Coordinator. Councilwoman Matute Brown, you pulled this.
Thank you. I did for the same reason that I expressed during the budget hearing. I can't support this. I'm a no on this.
Any other comments? So, this was discussed at the budget, budget hearing. The discussion was putting a supervisor in the planning department. There are new employees there, and we are looking for supervision in that department to help with the new employees. This is for an employee that we already have, and this would expand the duties of that responsibility, be supervisor for not just the new employees, but that would be helpful, but for the building and planning department.
Council President,
Councilman,
yes. I'm also a no for the reasons I stated last time. They remain. The individual that we're seeking to place in this position, while already a current employee, and certainly I'm willing to defer to Mr. Gross as to his management expertise.
I'll just, if I just could interrupt, the council is voting here whether to include the money in the budget for this position, not to make a promotion or to endorse or reject a particular promotion. This is not, this is not a discussion about employee performance in any way. I just wanted to make that point before. I wasn't sure where you were going, but I wanted to make the point just in case. Thanks.
I appreciate that. I certainly do know that, understand that. I just have a very difficult time accepting that to be the case, and I don't want to get down the road having given the authority of, I'll leave it there. I don't want to go down that road and then something else happens other than, I'll leave it there. I don't want to go down that road. Thank you, Council President.
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve 160-22?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
No.
Councilman Rutherford?
No.
Councilwoman Williams? Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question, Council President. So with...
Yeah, Ken.
Ken? I'm sorry, Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
So the resolution that we just voted on, there were 2 noes, 2 yeses, and an abstention. Does that resolution pass?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
And I gotta say that there are some unusual rules with respect to votes like that, and I couldn't hear all the votes, so I couldn't determine whether it passed or not. But I don't believe a 2-2 and an abstention would result in passage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have no ordinances on second reading. Ordinances on first reading, 2685-22, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 25 Land Use Regulations of the Revised General Ordinances of West Orange to implement a settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center. Is there a motion to introduce on first reading?
So moved.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford? Yes. Councilwoman Williams? Yes. Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2686-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 14.5 and Section 14.9 of the Revised General Ordinances of West Orange, appointment of police department officers and personnel. Is there a motion to introduce on first reading?
So moved.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
No.
Councilwoman Williams? Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Council President, could we ask questions on this? I know Mr. Kaiser's not here, or maybe the chief. Okay, yeah, he is here. I know we typically don't discuss these, but I just had a question with respect to when I was reading this ordinance. I read, and I'm trying to look for it quickly because I didn't highlight it, unfortunately. But I read that there was a maybe required, is it a psychological that may be required? Did I read that wrong, or am I recalling it wrong? As part of the training or hiring, as part of the hiring?
It is part of the hiring.
It is, okay, so it is, all right. If it was a maybe, I would have had an issue with that.
It is required.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that's required by statute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for clarification on that, you're saying that it is a part of the statute that it has to be done? Because the language in here is that the mayor may require, which would to me say.
I can tell you, well, Mr. Kaiser would have to talk about the actual law. I can tell you that under no circumstances would we be hiring without doing that. So it's been long practice, and I don't know of a municipality that does not. So again, it sounds to me, Mr. Kaiser said he believed it was statute. I would not dispute that because I don't know of a town that doesn't do
So
it.
then my question would be, why would we have the language may if it's absolutely going to be done? Then why isn't it shall?
I don't know the answer to that. That's.
And again, I don't, can everybody hear me again?
Yes.
Somebody keeps muting me, I don't know why, but I can mute myself and unmute myself. Again, I'm not certain. I believe the statutory required it. My general experience, and I've worked a long time in law enforcement or around law enforcement as a prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney and doing municipal law. It's just done as a matter of course in my experience. But I can't answer the question because I didn't prepare this ordinance. I did read it. I didn't really focus on that. It is on for first reading, so we can get clarification about it between now and when it's on for second reading. But I can't give you a definitive answer right now because I don't have the statute in front of me and I don't recall it specifically.
Thank you, Mr.
Does that answer your question, I hope?
It does. Thank you. My other issue with this is, my eyes are failing me. 2D, no family member, including a spouse, child, parent, sibling, grandparent, so on and so forth. shall be eligible for appointment to the police department by way of appointment, by way of appointment through the alternate route appointment procedures pursuant to as allowed in subsection A of this section. I skipped a whole bunch in there. It's basically the anti-nepotism clause.
Right.
And my concern is that we're doing it here and we're not doing it townwide. If it's good enough for the police department, it should be good enough for town hall and fire and every other department in town. And I think that's an important thing to include. And we had the conversation, I understand the logic, but I think we should codify it.
And I would have to look at it, but the issue is, we have the staff that we have, and to the extent that there may be employees that would trigger this, there's no desire for that to occur. Certainly moving forward, we already have in place requirements that, for instance, that no one can supervise anyone who's an employee. That's already in place.
So if I understand you correctly, the concern is that if we were to implement a similar anti-nepotism policy townwide, there could be employees that would be negatively impacted by that.
I certainly would want to be able to say to you, consider that, and say to you, okay, this is what would happen if you did that.
Right, but here...
that's something that certainly would have to be considered if that was the goal, to move this particular wording to townwide as opposed to the police department. This is focused on the police department because it is, first, number one, it's the only place we have this ability to do the alternate route. You cannot do the alternate route through any other department. So that's why this is focusing on that. If the council is looking to do something more broadly, then certainly we would research that and bring some,
Yeah, I would certainly, I am supportive of the alternate route hiring process. And I know that this clause has to be in there in order to pursue that. And I do understand that my argument would slow it down if it were supported by my council colleagues. I think it's important to get it right, and I think it's important to be fair and do it across the town rather than start in one space. And I do understand that it could impact people. It could also impact people. It could impact employees. It could impact employees of the police department as well. I'm sure you've already identified who it may be impacted, and I trust that you will have a plan to mitigate that so that we don't have to remove police officers. But I think the same level of attention and care could be provided within Town Hall and all the other departments too. So given some of the history that we've had in interacting interacting with the police department, I think it is not appropriate to have an anti-nepotism policy there only. I think we should do it townwide. Thank you, Council President.
But we do, just to be clear, we do have an anti-nepotism policy
well, we do,
townwide.
we know
it is
that
not the same.
Right.
It is not an identical experience, and nor would it even be in the police department, because this is impacting the alternate route, and so that the employees that are here now will not have the same impact as it will have on the alternate route employees. That's just the nature of what this is trying to accomplish. Your issue, is
mine is philosophical.
I'm not minimizing the importance of what you're. I'm just saying you are broadening the objective here, which is not to say that you can't. But this was focused narrowly on trying to move forward as quickly as possible with the alternate route. So.
Yeah, I do understand that. My logic is philosophical in nature. It's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Lack of a better way of saying it. Thank you.
I recall having that conversation when this ordinance came up first, and we did confirm that there is a policy in place already. So we do understand.
Council President, thank you. It was in the legislative history where I read that it says it clarifies that an entry-level law enforcement position may be exempt from the requirement of examination by civil service. What is the difference with the requirement of examination by civil service?
Right now, before the alternate route, you had to take a test, a civil service test. You had to pass that test, and then you were ranked you're based on your score with the other people that took that test. So that is the traditional. That is what all of our civil service is. The alternate route gives the municipality, in the case of police officers and police officers only, gives us the ability to look outside of that group and not go through that process for all of the objectives that we've discussed and understand. And in fact, this is a modification of the ordinance that was previously passed, because when we looked at the previous ordinance, we found issues that it presented us that was not conducive to the objectives of the ordinance to move forward with the alternate route. So this is to clarify the previously adopted ordinance, which this council has done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to complete that sentence, though, because yes, you may be exempt from the civil service examination, provided that the candidate has successfully completed a full basic course of police officers training course at an approved school and authorized by the Police Training Commission within 9 months of the date of hire. Still requirements. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Ordinance 2687-22, calendar year 2022, ordinance to exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Is there a motion to introduce on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Rutherford?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President McCartney?
Yes.
Okay, there's no pending I'm sorry, are there any wishful thinking? Pending matters, new matters, council discussion?
I just wanted to make a comment that I did make a note here that just to commend the parents and troop leaders from Troop 2 and Troop 106, because we have had a series of Eagle Scout Court of Honor ceremonies, and you know, to me in this day and age, to get a kid to that point in this unpredictable society is a commendation to the parents and to the troop leaders and to the troop themselves to get them to this point. So I know there were 2 this weekend, there's another tomorrow night, and there are a few more coming up. So
And great service projects, too.
we're not afraid to get dirty.
No.
Mhm.
Are there any other pending matters or discussion? Okay, so we have an ABC hearing. So are we going to adjourn the council meeting and go into ABC?
I move to adjourn the council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
No, look forward to seeing everyone this weekend, Juneteenth.
Thank
Starting
you, West
Thursday.
Orange.
Good night, West Orange.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Do we need to open the ABC hearing?